I'm right on time. Right on time, here I am. Check me out. Welcome, friends. Good to see you, Lindy. What's going on in my chat? What's up, Brian? Good to see you. Yeah, we're talking about the Summer Wells case and some of the developments recently. Not just that. If you want to talk about Jack and Lily, be my guest in my live chat. No problem, no problem. But we're focusing today on Summer because of the recent raid, as it's being labeled, at the 3500 block of Van Hill Road, about 9 miles southwest of 110 Ben Hill Road. However, I'm starting to question and wonder the tip. So I got to searching and we're going to take a look at some things together. I forgot how crazy the Summer Wells case was. But something did dawn on me in between all of the arguments that in my mind I tied together. Not just because I wanted to, but because there's really actually a connection all leading back to the reason for covering it up. Because I'm sitting there thinking, I'm tired of being... Just hold on. No matter in our minds, we always like to think that we're on the right track and you've taken things into consideration. And it dawned on me maybe that there was a need to cover it up due to the recent heat in the parents' lives from Child Protective Services, we'll just call them. I think it's DCHS there in Tennessee, but what I'm getting at is no matter what we think happened and Summer's fate was met, the reasoning for covering it up by way of the parents is still the same and ties back to the intrafamilial abuse escalation. And it came to me after I answered a comment from a stooge that was telling me that this intrafamilial escalation doesn't account for what happened. Oh, yes, it does. It tells you specifically, friend, because it escalates to the point of death. Just because you don't know the details doesn't take away, death is all the same. Death is a constant. It's no longer alive in that sense. So maybe there's ways to articulate it in a better way in that sense. No. And I say stooge and we get spooky. That's funny. I say that, not that I really personally mean that, but it's that people want to get combative over what their theory is with overlooking the fact that they don't have all of the information. So I call them dipshits in that sense, or stooges or something like that, simply because they want to find something that they want to rally behind when it comes to the most probable theory, when in fact, listen, we don't need specifically, although we all understand that's what we're after. But at this point, at this juncture, we know where and who holds the answers in that sense. Let me switch up. Welcome in. Welcome in, all my rowdy friends. Let's see here. And let me begin by stating, if I haven't already, just to get it out of the way, because I know I'm going to hear about it in my comment section. There's been all kinds of fools in my comments section, as I mentioned, but in regards to Candus Bly's first 2 children, I went hunting for that, and it was an Evil Exists link that somebody sent me. So I went and checked it out. In these circumstances, you're not going to see all of the details and know all of the details as per why the children were removed from the house ever. These records are sealed. So therefore, from a presenter's standpoint or somebody talking about it for an audience, you can't sit there and give you some sort of confirmation in that sense, rather than what it is and how we came about the information. And that really goes for the majority of things when it comes to cases when there's children involved. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It just means that you, the listener, need to be aware of it. And it's not my or anybody else's job to associate the piece of information with innocence or guilt. And this is what the people who choose to, and I'm not sure how many of it are people are serious or how many are just choosing to troll in that sense. It's not like it's a big problem. It just sticks out in my mind, and I wanted to talk about it this morning because I see it all over everybody else's content. I even stopped in at Skirndog Big Ernie's channel yesterday, checking out what he was saying on the case. Then I clicked on this Reddit link just to see what was going on and who was, not that that's a great place to go and gather information, but that's where I got this private investigator's name, this Jason Jensen. Somebody was talking about him up there. And then I saw Justin talking about him. And I've never seen a person do that. Maybe there's a method to the madness with this guy and how he's coming about, but I'm not sure if he's I don't know anything about him. Do you guys know about him? Let me know in my live chat. But it seems to me like it's an individual who recognizes that there's an interest there, and he's posting things on Facebook alluding to the person that took Summer without really identifying anything else. Don't get fooled. I'm talking about the action itself. Like, if you're a private investigator, what the fuck are you doing on Facebook, walking around pretending you're a private investigator, posting messages alluding to somebody in that? And I think Justin has it pointed up. I don't know. It just seems bizarre to me. Like I say, maybe there's a method to his madness. Let me see it right here. Is this Justin's? No, that's the wrong one. And it's this thing he was talking about. Excuse me. Now, am I going to have to call a real PI in here like Jim Terry? I'm just kidding, of course. What happened to that clip? There it is. Jason K. Jensen, PI. Headliner on June 8th with Summer Wells, I know what you did. Turn your brother in and they will go easy on you. You can remain anonymous. Call me at blank. This is not about Summer's brothers. This seems more of an attention grab to me than anything else. And on top, he's got pictures of Summer that I'm, the hey you part. Well, somebody's responsible for this, but I have your name. Confess where she is. I mean, he's presented that in a pretty good way. I like that. It leaves the reader wondering. It really stokes the mystique of the scenario. So I'm not saying either way about this Jason Jensen. It just now has worried me because they're associating this Jason Jensen with being the person that led to the raid, who gave over the tip to TBI or whoever, and then they in turn raided the house at the 3500 block. I forgot the exact address. Oh my god. Oh my God. So I don't know what's true, what's not when it comes to this. But all of this and what we're talking about leads back to Hunter and what he said in a very important statement in the interview with Chris McDonough. And it was his reference to overhearing the phone call between Don and Candus, where Candus told him that Don was talking about some dude coming up there that likes to touch kids. Now, all of the key words are there. You're like, uh-oh, your ears perk up because of this, right? The point is that he said he thought the name, and he wasn't clear. He didn't know. He thought it was Andy, which made all of us think it was Jody Sue's husband for a long time. Maybe people still do. I don't know. I don't share that personally, but then it popped up. It could be maybe it was Randy. And Randy is the son of Paul Hill, who this gentleman lives at this in the 3500 block of Van Hill Road with this old pig farm, and there's maybe a tree trimming service there as well. And not that people are suspicious necessarily of Paul Hill, but they're thinking that it's this Randy guy. Now, atop of that, they have this red Toyota Tacoma that was sold back in 2021 that they had for, I think, 10 years. It was registered there. And it's just very synchronistic that it lines up with the red Tacoma that the police mentioned, along early on with being a person of interest, whoever was driving that truck. Now, people can get years off. It depends on the quality of the CCTV or the video footage or the dash cam footage that they got in regards to this. It was that reddish tone or maroon color Toyota Tacoma with a full-size ladder rack, and that seems fairly specific. That's fairly specific, isn't it? Yeah, I hear you, Scarlet. The pig farm seems kind of creepy. Absolutely. People's minds go haywire, especially in a circumstance like this. Hey, real Norbeaster. Nobody I've heard, and especially me, I'm not insisting that this individual whose home was essentially raided has anything to do with it. We don't know. But I'm wondering, and people are talking about it having to do with this Jason Jensen. Now, is it just a way for somebody to get attention? Yes. I'm not saying that that's what's happening here, because I'm just getting to know about it. But it makes me wonder. It makes me question it already. So I'm not sure. What do you guys think? I mean, I wonder how the tip came to be. But that's just us. We want our curiosity satisfied. Of course, you have to trust the FBI, TBI in this circumstance to sort out relevant from not. We're in no position. I just like to add, by the way, that rumor of Candus essentially bringing harm to her son Andrew and him living in an adaptive care facility. How can a person do anything more to substantiate something, in that situation? People are very combative that this is some form of disinformation. Not a lot of people like it. I'm specifically speaking to one or two, but I know that there's more out there. Listen, this was a rumor. And when I tell you that this is a rumor and then go on to mention it, it's not disinformation in that sense. I'm not spreading disinformation on Candus. There's intergenerational trauma involved, a cycle of abuse that we can all recognize. Not that we're poking fun of it in any way. We're pointing it out because it's relevant. So we have Grandis, Candy Hair, she married Ken way back in 1980. And she was, 20? I'm just going off the top of my mind. Over 20 years. I think it's 24 years younger than Ken was. She married Ken. Candus Bly turns around and as a 19-year-old young woman marries this Andrew who's in his mid-40s and has 2 children by him. That ends. Then she gets with Don, who's 20 years older than her right now. Has 4 children by him. You don't even need DNA tests. They all look so alike. I'm not saying that they're inbred by any means. I'm just saying they look a lot and they resemble a lot like their parents. You can see that that's little Don Wells running around. You can see the likeness. It's just a point of interest at that point in time. I'm not trying to get you to believe that Candus or even Grandis are evil, bad, and need to be ostracized from society in any way, or trying to ramp up anger towards them. This is a relevant issue to the circumstances leading up to the kids, or Summer, going and getting gone in that sense, and the deception. And the type of deception and what's really going on around up on that hill. It has everything to do with why Summer's missing at this point and past. Hey, Sweet Tea, good to see you. April, you're talking about you thinking the whole family is predators in your opinion. Well, let's take a look at the men. We don't know them. We don't know. Ken passed away. Was it Grandis's father passed away a month before all of this happened? Not that it has any association. I'm just trying to inform us or get on the same page as much as possible. I'm not looking for any script. I'm just going off my memory, by the way, so I might be slightly off a little bit. I'm expecting to be. But and the things that Jose observed and said are worth watching, by the way. I told Mike Demand that it wasn't probably even worth watching because I totally forgot what was in the interviews. But then after I did that, I went and searched them. I'm like, oh, actually, that's really fucking interesting. I'd forgot that. He brought up the blue couch and all of these things. These little things are all of interest because they go against the narrative of the parents in that sense, or the script here. There's no possible way, Candus and Dawn, that the story that you gave law enforcement and in turn WJHL that we all saw in that 10-minute clip, 12-minute clip is even close to being true. It drives us nuts because we can't or we can't fulfill our desires in wanting to further question them in that sense. which is where the circus begins. There's a big difference between gathering information and an interrogation. That goes for the Jack and Lily case too. When you're presented with a situation that you've deemed to be illegitimate on the inside, I'm not talking about from the public statement persona, but you as a group of investigators have identified as being bullshit, essentially, as the scenario is that this story is bunk. You're being fed a lie. Your jobs as an investigator take a different turn right there. And it becomes different, and a lot of us fall into the trap, and I'll even say us, it's unavoidable. Because you're constantly in your mind battling with things that you know should be and what isn't there when it comes to morals and ethics. And take a look at the scenario that we're always presented with. And the one I'm saying is we're always identifying where the initial reaction to the child going missing and the behavior by the mother isn't as expected, normal. And it stands out to us, specifically in the true crime community, in the greater community, of something being up, therefore a greater interest. How'd they do that? How'd they do that, Barb Murray, babes? Welcome in, by the way. TBI cleared Fred. You sound like a special interest. Is that you, Fred? I wouldn't say anything about Fred Hill, by the way. I never thought he had anything to do. I was just eager to know what he had to say way back then. That's about it. I'm hoping that I'm not giving you that vibe. I'm not saying Fred did anything, or you in my chat preemptively because you feel it coming. I think that's probably what it is. Oh shit. I was already, and I think that's what it is because I was over at Ernie's. I wasn't in chat. I was just analyzing the transcript, and Ernie is on one. I think they're all on one about Fred because, and it's clever from we'll group them in their perspective, right? Channels who aren't as interested in the truth or reality as much as trying to aggregate information, let's say. And by that, I mean going back to people like Fred and essentially, or hypothetically, or actually grabbing him by the ankles and shaking all of the change out of his pockets. The proverbial information. Ziggy made a post, AB. So Ziggy's cleared Fred Hill? Oh, Zig. I like Ziggy. I do like Ziggy. I don't like some of the stuff that she does, but it's not up to me. I don't judge her on it. She can do whatever. She's still cool. Oh, shit. What was that post? Did I read that post? Let me go over to Ziggy's channel right this second. Let's go have a look at that. That made me laugh a little bit. Let's see. Ziggy's post. So Ernie, it looks like Ernie is let's see, trying to oh, right on. Okay. She made a post right here. This is cool. It's worth mentioning. This is some new news. Thank you. Now I understand what you're telling me. Okay. But it does probably stem from Ernie at some point, I'm sure. So let me read this. It says, this is from November 13th. All I have to say, Ziggy, is I told you, gays. Below is the last email you sent to Sheriff Lawson. I'm Detective Pruitt, and the sheriff asked me to follow up with you concerning Fred Hill. Mr. Hill has been investigated extensively. And with the timeline that has been pieced together of his activities during the time period in question, he has been ruled out as a person of interest. Hey, Daniel Martell. This would be an example of being cleared in a situation. This includes any videos and or recordings that he has made. We greatly appreciate your interest in this case, Ziggy, and the time that you are investing in it, but Fred Hill isn't who or where you should devote your time to. Anybody could have sent that email. That's fucking Photoshop, bro. I'm not saying that. I'm just waiting for that these comments to come down below. Do you know that's how this case is? I'm not saying anything. Congratulations, Fred. That's got to be. You should frame that. You should put that up on your wall and add to your morning motivation to get out of bed. Oh shit. Well, that's really going to put a foot in Ernie Shell's. Well, there'll be something. That'll be something. So the link there is because of the shared last name between this recent raid up at the old pig farm. Paul's got a nice place back in there. It doesn't seem like the type. I couldn't believe Ernie started talking about human organ trafficking, child human organ trafficking in their abattoir, and that it's happening up there on the 3500 block, and this is what he's alluding or inferring in this particular live stream, what had happened to Summer. And that's when I had to tune out. I'm like, dude, I can't believe I sat through like an hour and a half for you to bring me to this point. Heaven's sakes. The real Norbeaster. Oh, by the way, thank you for mentioning that. I guess it's turned into a hiatus. I haven't gone on hiatus from Jack and Lily. I'm still wanting to talk about it, but I gave myself a small break. This came from after a group call that Mike DeMann and I had with Jordan Geddes. And there's a few things that we can talk about. I'm just going to have a live stream later. We can talk about it in a later live stream. It's nothing serious. Just some of... it was good to hear Jordan in that sense and ask him some questions and get some things ironed out as to get past what was otherwise affecting him in a negative manner and his mother. And he wanted to tell us about, when he... met Daniel in that sense, and then when he next met Daniel, and he hasn't really been in the loop in Daniel's life. So why that's relevant is because there's so much talk, and because we don't know, because there's so much rug talk, it's hard not to associate Daniel's associates somehow into the potential ring of substance abuse. And I think above all that was affecting Jordan, not above all, but that was really the icing on the cake that was really affecting him. And Jordan is not an addict, not in any way, and I don't believe that he is in that sense. And he wasn't lying to us. There was no, it wasn't even a scenario where you would strum to analyze statements. He was sorting things out, and I'm like, you know what? There's so many people that we've got pissed off inadvertently at Jordan. Darren's a different story, but to an extent, Durwood as well. It's a bit of a sidetrack and a distraction, and it was becoming unnecessary from my standpoint. So it's like, okay, I'm going to take a few of the videos down because after I met the guy, now I feel bad. Not because I'm a pussy, but because no matter what you say up here, it has an effect. And if the person's having negative interactions with the public for no reason other than somebody and people are running with unsubstantiated rumors just because they're associated, it becomes a different thing. So I got to know Jordan a little bit, and yeah, I started to feel bad. I'm like, I'm glad I didn't say anything that was I needed to apologize for. So I must be learning in life as well. But still, it even though it wasn't meant You know what I mean? Even though I wasn't going after Jordan in that sense necessarily, but raising up the questions, I know the effect that it would have had on him, and I feel bad for doing that because you push the envelope a little bit. You like when you think you're onto something, it's really easy to go just a bit too far. So I kind of started feeling, look at my qualifiers. I'm learning statement analysis. I got my own qualifier there, but I think I went a bit too far with Jordan in that sense, and I've got to let some time go by and do the work in order to undo any sort of suspicions out there about him. Because Jordan hadn't met or hadn't been in Daniel's life in quite some time, especially since he got to know Malaya. So not only is he out of the loop in that sense, it has nothing to do with associating to this, but a lot of the misunderstanding on people's parts out there have to do with the substances, and that part of it is just not right. So, but when it comes to Durwood, Jordan's primary motivation was to come out and protect his father, which is honorable in that sense. He sees his father in a certain way, and there's probably a disconnect because he doesn't live with Durwood. So there's a good chance that there's a disconnect with the information, and Jordan sees Darren as a kind individual looking to help in that scenario. And that's it. We can agree with it or disagree with it. But it's better that we represent what it is that he actually is and feels in this scenario, so we don't waste our time any more than we need to. You know how these things can get potentially carried away, out of hand. Anyway. Getting back to summer here. Wolfie, you think Fred is completely innocent? You don't feel as sure about Andy, though? Since he saw Summer's deceased body. So... Wolfie, why are you doing this to me in my goddamn live chat, man? Didn't we just have this big talk? I know. Listen. Yeah, I kind of like Andy. I kind of like Jody Sue's Andy, we'll call him. I like Jody Sue's Andy. He's a good dude. Listen. I don't know anything. I do know about the case, and I've seen everything that you have. I want more information. I'd rather have more information than have that feeling of being certain that I think I know something. And so do you all. We got to pull ourselves back from that often. What they all have in common, no matter what everything, no matter how different the theory is when it comes to the fate of Summer Wells, it all comes back to the need to then, after the crime, dispose of the body. No matter what. But the separation comes from whether there is a stranger responsible for it, strange to the family, or if it's in the family, as in Don or Candus in that sense. And how can you ignore all of the indicators of the escalation in the cycle of intrafamilial abuse? YouTube doesn't like these topics, by the way. It's very difficult to talk about, not because I'm just saying, but for my pauses. It's hard for me to find alternative words when it comes to these. But the algorithm doesn't like it, and take my monetization in that sense. That's right, those clicks and views. Yeah, baby. Andy was proven to be at work, Spooky Lou. Listen, I don't think that, so all of the Andy talk and all of the holler talk about there being some sort of greater conspiracy between all of the players, I don't feel the same anymore. I don't think that there was some sort of black market business going on between Jody, Sue, Andy, Fred, Candus or Dawn and all of this. For the longest time when we were getting to know the situation and getting to know the characters years ago, the possibility, there was a possibility because we didn't know any different. The more that we got to know the players, the less and less probable those early theories became in that sense. And Andy fits into this, I believe. Like, I mean, you can believe whatever you want, but the more you get to know the individuals involved, the less and less likely it seemed that they were involved. I hope Justin straightens that. I hope Justin straightens that that text message that was shared with Dawn about Candus and Hunter's conversation, the screenshot, because that said June 4th, not June 15th. So how are you therefore going to present? It's okay to make mistakes. Sometimes it happens, especially when information is presented to you. Things can slip through, but it's important that you correct them. I'm still got a hard on for collecting all of the information that would point in back to Dawn being at home, but I want a specific time. When in fact, I do believe that he was home a lot earlier, but I want to know how much earlier. And it's not the greatest examples. People get confused in the comments section, and don't let it confuse you. LTL's video pointed out several examples of leakage and a couple loose ones. It's not like the individuals out to lunch. They had examples of leakage. Like, for example, the behavioral panel interview when he was talking and he made that slip about either bringing them back or brought her back, and then talking about the situation. That moment was slippage when it comes to detecting deception in statement analysis. That was my point of playing it. Not saying that it had anything to do necessarily directly, like her being directly Summer, therefore whatever information is Kaif. No, it's you who are watching it who are not getting it. Fucking idiot. People piss me off in that sense. They want to leave comments all over your fucking videos. Instant ban, man. Anyway, I had that. In fact, we talked all about this is a part of the trigger. Okay, so take a look at it in context or in comparison to Jose Roman and the situation where he came to stay there in the circumstance. Everything is based around sex, getting fucking stoned, and doing nothing. Being lazy. The premise to Jose's story really focused and centered around Don Wells and how violent he was and how intimidated Candus and Grandis were of Don. He wasn't choosing sides necessarily in this circumstance. He was presenting it as he saw it. So take it into consideration. Am I buffering? Let me see. Try to refresh. Hold on. Hold on. Let me see if I'm buffering. It wouldn't surprise me. One moment, please. Yeah, well, it must be you. It says excellent connection this time. Fucking buffering. Fuck you. Oh, it stopped buffering now? Oh, okay. Thanks, SR. Hold on. Let me turn off all of my other... I got all kinds of things on. It should be okay, because there's nobody's at home. Yeah, I don't know why you guys are on about that. I don't know who you think is going to find Summer Wells. It's not a race. The last time I looked, nobody's actually physically looking for Summer. Okay? Donnie, I love you, but I mean, yeah, no YouTuber is going to find Summer. Like, who is going around saying that they will? I hope you're not insisting that that's something that we promote over here, because we don't. I think that might be sometimes what Ernie used to like to play in that sense. It's not a game. It's not an Easter egg hunt in that sense. Yeah, Barb Murray. You rather pull all my eyelashes out before I watched Ernie? Well, I got sucked into it. I got pulled over there and sucked into it. Just by the mention. Hold on, let me see here. So yeah, we talked about him. So it's still, no matter what. Yeah, so let's clarify this. I do think that I still think Hunter does have information that's important to the situation when it comes to the deception by way of Don and Candus and the information and how things were over at Don and Candus's place, for him specifically. I don't think necessarily he knows anything when it comes to what happened with Summer, no more than anybody else. Yeah, you're glad we're getting some movement, Quiz? Yeah, so am I. But that's why I got searching for this and I started questioning, and I guess it's, who are we to question how the tip came in? It's kind of silly to do that in the first place. Oh, Barb, that's very generous of you. Thank you, darling. That's why we depend on you to watch for us. Oh, I'll throw through. I actually don't put myself through it. I'll go and I'll take the transcript and I'll go up to like AI. You could probably do it on GPT, but I use Grok and I get it to transcribe whatever interview there was in that sense, or analyze the transcript and tell me what information he's trying to bring here. Yeah, dude, I can't help. I get entertained by Ernie too, which tells me, which is a bit of a double-edged sword, I know. Listen, he's just doing his thing. He has every right to be on YouTube. But he does have a membership that you can go over and join. So that's good for him. I'm glad Ernie found something in that sense. Here on the platform, I mean. And even Skeezy, even Benny's back. Benny's back and doing his thing when it comes to... the last time I saw him, he was trying to ice out Cher, which was kind of funny. But, I mean, as long as you're using it for the right reasons, then it's a great thing to have more people on the platform in that sense. Many of you need to start your own channels and do your thing. It's a great way to communicate sometimes. Sometimes. Don wasn't silent when the TBI searched Ben Hill Road this past July. Slim, what do you mean? What are you alluding to, darling? Don wasn't silent when TBI searched Ben Hill this past July. They went... they go and search Ben Hill in July again? I knew that I did remember he did like a talk with Ansley Daniels. I just can't recall what it was about. Your phone's an actual potato. What was one of those Obama phones? So we're at a crossroads when it comes to, like, Mike over there is still talking about, he's going back through it from the beginning. Please go over and check out Mike Demand and talk, take part in his live chats, especially when it comes to the Summer Wells case. He's doing his thing, bringing up good points. See, no matter, you're at a point where you know all of the different theories and the possibilities. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to get married to any and have that be your theory and your do or die in this. Because even if something did happen in the water, it all comes back. You know, that was one part of this. The next part, there are definitely crimes involved. There is a conspiracy to cover it up. Oh, after the disposal and the desecration of a corpse potentially in all of this, depending on where you live, it'll be slightly different. But what I'm getting at is, I don't even know. I got distracted. Hold on. My daughter's home today. I got distracted. What I was getting at is, no matter where it comes back to, the need to cover that up, the need to cover up what had happened, whether it been unintentional, accidental, or direct. There's been deception and a need to cover up what really happened by way of the parents. I would think that the majority of people would agree to this. And the reason for that, in my mind, could only possibly be Don's inappropriate nature with Summer and all of this. And this doesn't get talked about far enough. In fact, there's people that are so defensive about it, and that's what's wrong. Because if all of the indicators start pointing to SA or inappropriate conduct with the child, it came that way through the escalation of the intrafamilial cycle of abuse. And people want a virtue signal, and I remember earlier on, and I shouldn't speak for, maybe it's different at this point in time for the individuals, but they thought it was disrespectful to even refer to that because they didn't want to, and I quote, put that on Summer. So it's better to then be silent around all of the indicators and the things that are inappropriate. You should therefore not discuss them. Isn't that the exact opposite thing that you should do? Right, Barb? A repeat offender in that sense? He's a slick SOB. absolutely defensive. Did you see Andrew screaming at me for even asking Candus about Summer? Andrew, Spooky Lou, what was it? You mean Andrew Hiltz? Hey, two old crows. So what goes on in these relationships? Like, Candus is really used to being treated like crap in all of this. She did the same thing Candus did and turned around and marries this Andrew guy. He also introduced her to the mathematics, in other words, in that sense. So this Andrew was 20 years older than her. She was a teenager, got her pregnant, and introduced mathematics to her. And they removed the children at the time because of what was going on in the house. And that included, obviously, Andrew Jr. Like, in my mind, something happened to them. And I'm just careful how I phrase it. But he was assaulted in that sense so badly that he's got to live in an assisted living facility at this point in time. Like, I mean, doesn't that rhyme with the scenario recently with Jake Harrow? Now, we don't know if it was Candus responsible for that or if it was Andrew responsible for that. Why is it that people want to associate it with Candus? Because it's the children got taken away from Candus. Maybe they were estranged, but we don't know all of the details as to what happened, other than poor Andrew Jr. is living with a disability because of the incident. Yeah, B, I know where you're going. Yeah, you're not wrong in all of that. It's just you're justifying assuming in all of this. I'm just more trying to clarify as to why I'm jumping to making certain things when it comes to the allegations of the things that you can't talk about necessarily because of the algorithm. Didn't CW's daughter come out and say, say what do you mean? And all of this comes back to, and the reason why we're talking about this, all of it comes back to the inappropriate relationship between Candus and Hunter. And that relationship was something that Candus misrepresented. She doesn't even acknowledge the immoral part of it in that sense. But I believe this is all because she knows it's a trigger for Don. Don is controlling. Don's a nut job in that sense. He's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, remember? And we've seen that. Glimpses of it. So she was hiding her intentions and what was really going on. And how would Don recognize what would otherwise be right and wrong morally? So what makes Don jealous, I wonder? But whatever it was, and it could just be, well, look what happened with Jose Roman. Don came back and, it escalated quite quickly from there. Jose, the assumed relationship, and by the way, Jose denied there ever was an actual romantic relationship between Candus and himself. There was between him and Allie, but Allie got mad and left because Candus stole Jose from her. They were fighting over Jose. So Don comes back from Utah drunk, and they get into a physical altercation to where the cops had to have come. Jose represents it in a sense that Grandis was an individual that was antagonizing into the relationship between Candus and Don, making Don jealous. So jealousy is a factor in all of this. And Don's response and the fact that Grandis doesn't like, think about all the bizarre little power struggles up there. But these are the things that are coming from Jose, just from his observations. And that I would have to trust. There's no reason for him to lie in that sense. It's not like he's, he's saying things that are consistent with the situation at hand that we're reading into. So you got to thank him for that. Rest in peace. Oh, AK-47, listen. The last thing I believe is that it was a stranger abduction in that sense. If it was a stranger abduction, it would be easier to find because the stranger would have had to have come in from somewhere and leave to somewhere. The fact that there's none of that around, I don't even consider it at this point in time. You can if you want, but I'm not saying you are. You're just showing or stating another example. I get you. You heard a rumor back then when Jose went to jail over the Ben Hill battles. I don't know what you're talking about, Slim Pickens. Jose never went to jail over Ben Hill battles. Jose was in jail before he came there for 3 years. But it didn't have anything to do with anything that happened at Ben Hill Road. So after the escalation on Ben Hill Road with Don Wells and he came back, Grandis had to get him the hell on out of there, and he went to North Carolina. He's got kids, he had kids. He just had his struggles in that sense. But I mean, he was there participating in it too, to a degree, because he had an issue at that time, he admits to, with alcoholism. It was good to see and good to hear, at least, that Candus didn't seem to be physically aggressive with the kids. He mentioned that, or he didn't witness any ABUSE in that sense. Good morning, Jamie. I don't know what you're talking about, Slim. You got my ears perked up. Or did you mistype and mean when Don went to jail over Ben Hill? And whose rugs? Whose rugs went missing? Slim, are you just making stuff up? You'll have to re-listen to Justin's Jose interview. Maybe. You might have misheard it. Yeah, Jose didn't go because of it. He went before. So the question came up, did Hunter overhear Don refer to Randy Hill as opposed to Andy? He said Andy, but you can see where a person might mishear, especially coming from Candus, because she's got a few teeth missing and she doesn't pronounce her words properly in that sense. I don't think he did, Slim, unless you're knowing something that I didn't. Oh, Justin's fine. Barb Murray, do you think Dawn did call Candus, told her a diddler on the hill per Hunter? Are you asking me if I believe that call occurred? Yeah, I'm giving Hunter the benefit of the doubt in recalling this call. It's interesting to me how they don't have any answers to it. Like, it stands out to him after the fact. Okay? It stands out to Hunter months after not months, I guess, a month after the fact. It stood out to him as suspicious at that point in time. That's what it was. That whole part of his story is of interest to me. And it's been, on a bit of a side note there, it's been disappointing, by the way, Andrew, I know you'll be listening, to see how you and Hunter handled him straightening out this information after the fact. It seemed like it turned into more of a game and a money grab before it did out of interest as to the fate of Summer Wells in this situation. That was disappointing. So now I can't even trust Hunter in this scenario, not in this arena, not on an online social media platform, maybe in an interview setting away from you know what I mean, in an interview setting rather than an interview with Pandrew setting. That is so unfortunate. And I'm not sure, it's not Andrew's fault necessarily, because I think the intent was there, but Hunter's been up 4 times since this happened. Andrew's had him on his show. Andrew didn't really want to acknowledge what's the most important factor in all of this. He wants to make it something else. And I don't expect Hunter to be completely honest necessarily, because he doesn't want to be embarrassed. He knows what he's expected to say. All of a sudden, people are holding things against him because of this relationship with a person who's 20 years older than him. These are the cycles that we've seen. This is the intergenerational cycle of abuse. And she's putting that onto Hunter in this circumstance. Like, really? I mean, 20 years difference. There's 20 years difference between Dawn and Candus. 20 years difference between Grandis and Ken. Might even be 26. 20 plus, we'll say. And a 20-year plus difference between Hunter and Candus. Maybe they think it's just a thing. It was good enough for them, therefore it's how I should go about doing things as well. Or it's what makes me feel most comfortable. That's weird. That's just fucking weird. But it seemed like everybody involved normalized the behavior in that sense. Or they intentionally looked the other way, or maybe didn't, heaven forbid, didn't know. And I'm talking about Allie. Like, you recognized how physically abusive things were, especially like Allison mentioned certain things about the birthday. But she overlooks the bizarre nature of having a 15-year-old adolescent hang out with a 30-some-year-old woman who should be looking after her own kids. But that's what she could have possibly be doing under the guise. Like, from Allison's perspective, if you know all the boys are there and everybody's there, then you just think that, you go hang out with, kids. It's a place where they're all hanging out and doing things in that sense. Where doing things is Hunter just hanging out with Candus with his shirt off, and they're making TikToks together. All their lovey face. You're contributing to the delinquency of a minor rather than hanging out. Christine, do you have an issue with Allison's weight? That's not very nice. Yeah, it's throughout just mid-April. It is sad. It makes me sad too. So many people at this point in time have passed away. 3 in this situation. Allison's passed. Allison's friend has passed. Who's the third? It would have had to have been a source of contention. And this goes back to that clip of Dawn in the interview room in the middle of talking about, or at the end of talking about, the person who cut those statements should have highlighted it with a longer in context clip, but we know where he was going with that. Don was explaining the order of, essentially the story about what Candus and Hunter and Summer said they did that day on June 15th, and then started, he started to leak a little bit, and he gets into talking about quickly with that statement. He says, I brought her back, or whatever he was saying, or I took her back, and everything was in the situation was okay, or something to that regards. And then the guys from the behavioral room asked him, what situation? That's where Don stopped himself from revealing the trigger, in my opinion. From revealing what? From something that he didn't want to talk about necessarily. Remember, the mind doesn't like to lie in that sense. It wants to refer to things that are true. Therefore, the individual speaking can be right in the moment. It's difficult for Don sometimes. He gets himself into positions. But what I'm getting at here is he highlighted the point of contention, meaning that her relationship with Hunter was a problem for him. There was question of its morality. There's a question of why you're hanging around Hunter so much, why you are making kissy boo-boo faces at dinner, why you guys are playing footsies underneath the table, and you're turning around and continuing to lie to Dawn. Think about how that goes. Like, Candus is just denying that the inappropriate relationship where there's alcohol involved, there's vapes involved, is an appropriate, kid-friendly, well-intentioned, good time for her. It's inappropriate, and she's just denying the obvious. She doesn't want to talk about it. And specifically, she doesn't want to talk about it because she's already lied to Dawn about it. She doesn't want there to be any further problems, like the problems that escalated up to the point when Summer got gone. Nine years old, AK. Now she is. So when it comes back to Hunter, he described to us how there was some pressure put on by Candus after the fact, Dawn and Candus, especially the days immediately following June 15th when Candus came back to talk to Hunter, and they were suspicious of that. Like, why was she back wanting to talk to Hunter about not letting them know too much about their relationship together, in other words? Not just from that particular day. Maybe it was just that particular day, but it was the relationship in general. We can take a look at that now. Well, one thing has to do with the other here. No doubt. So when it comes back to, there's people that want to say that, it's hard to disbelieve him at this point. We're not in a position to scrutinize him or probe him further for a lot more information. Hunter, at this point in time, it's more of evidence gathering. It's information gathering. It's trying to get all of the information you need in order to find Summer. And why are there so many problems, especially in the Summer Wells case and in the Jack and Lily case? It should be very easy to gather all of the information because nothing should be really, at this point, private. If they start talking about the relationship, it's only going to go one way, and how wrong Candus was. How wrong this little situation is between you two. Nobody's saying that you guys are knocking the boots, but it's grooming behavior. It falls in line with the types of things that Candus was allowing to go on around the other kids. It's a problem when it comes to child safety. Why did Candus feel the need to go outside of the relationship? Because she wasn't getting the attention she needed from her husband, 20 plus years her senior. Because it sounds like Dawn just doesn't give a shit like that. So she goes out because she's a human being and she is socially awkward. She doesn't know how to go about doing it. So she incorporates the next best thing, which is her friend's son, which she's bonded with through the relations between families here. And she's coaxing and grooming and being that person to an individual who seems to tolerate her as well. They're bonding over alcohol and vapes and things like this. Yeah, right, sweet tea. They know it's wrong, and that's why they hide it. Well, it would lead us to the question as to, or it being relevant in the situation with Summer as it being a trigger for Dawn. And it was an ongoing thing, okay? It was an ongoing thing up until the days Summer went missing. I'm certain that because Dawn is Dawn, that Candus and Grandis are intimidated by him. They're scared of Dawn and what he is capable of. Not because he's a rampaging monster at this point in time, but because he's a full-grown male adult with a gun and a temper and a substance abuse disorder. And he's not looking to change. All right, that puts a woman at a disadvantage in all of this. And Candus is not a big person, and she's not a physical person. Neither is Grandis. So what was taking up all of Peeping Dawn's time in that sense? Referring back to the Jody Sue Brown Peeping Dawn story. For the sake of a label, but that made me laugh. That story made me laugh. I wonder, imagine if that was 100% true, and according to Jody, it is. The Peeping Dawn story. Dawn Wells was allegedly had a habit of peeping in the windows from behind the trees over at Jody Sue, the neighbor's house. And they tried to catch him in the act one night. They almost had him. Andy almost had him. Oh, man. Anyway, I got sidetracked. But heaven's sakes, what I'm getting at is if Don Wells isn't home, he's not home with his wife, throwing a leg over her, poking her in the back type of thing, romancing her, having romantic dinners. Like, what the hell's going on? Where is and how is he getting his thrill in that sense? Yeah, the exact time be in Florida, I'm not sure if it was the day before, but we'd say in the days leading up. Yeah, they had just, I think they had just closed a report or an investigation of things going on up at the Hillby. That's what JLR and them canvassed the neighborhood when they were down there interviewing people. And by the way, all of Candus's neighbors consider her to be a pedo in that sense. And they all identified Hunter in that sense and the relationship as inappropriate. As in there's more than one person that knew about it and it was going on at that point in time. Never gets talked about, and it should. It really needs to. Hi, Quillfish and Wolfie. The other Wolfie. It would be very easily like Hunter is intimidated in this conversation because he is a human being and he's not involved in doing anything wrong to Summer in that sense, but he feels pulled in and he's hesitant to disappoint the individuals in his life around him. He has more of a street code in that sense. And there was a lot of gatekeeping, I think I had interpreted as, when it comes to Allison interjecting in certain points at this point in time, looking back on it now. Like, really, what was Allison being so protective over in this circumstance? I think deep down they all know the inappropriate nature of things, but don't want to deal with it. There's a level of complacency here. Like, first of all, as a mother, why the fuck would you be letting your son around that scenario knowing full well that you just went through those issues with True being up there? Like, this relationship with Dawn and Candus and Allison and Sherry is so bizarre in the first place. Like, there's a lot for these individuals to try, avoid talking about. So not to look any more degenerate than they really are. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's difficult to be nice and give them the benefit of the doubt when they don't want to acknowledge the elephant in the room. They don't want to acknowledge the most significant point here to all of this, and it would be the inappropriate relations between adults and children. And not that maybe that's a sounding a bit too intentional. It's the fact that there's no boundaries. It seems like a place where boundaries don't exist. Kids roam free. People are banging and getting drunk and high and not eating and just an atmosphere of, or an environment that's not conducive to raising children in. Like, it does seem like the boys and everybody out there had things. Like, they had the dirt bikes and they loved to roam. And yeah, living in the country or being a farm kid or growing up in the country or close to nature can be a fantastic thing. But I think that statement goes with presuming that children are having proper guidance and proper parenting, or parents who cared, rather than this is how you should be raised. So therefore we raise them like the Lord of the Flies or the Hunger Games or something like that. The boys the oldest will look after the next oldest, and then the shit flows downhill that way. And then Summer's just running around getting in trouble for wandering. Nobody's paying attention. There's no interaction. There's a level of isolation there that's unnecessary. It's not like it's a happy home environment where you're all like the kids in The Sound of Music, right? Doe a deer. It's not like that. So imagine, this is what I can't get out of my mind when it comes to this. So imagine this. They all are having this one-sided, really, they had an abusive relationship with Don and Wells because Candus came and abused and exploited the relationship when Sherry was working at Walmart and stealing the $5 frozen pizzas on a consistent basis, which ended up causing Allison to lose her job there. I'm probably sure that, or Sherry to lose her job there. Probably wasn't the only reason, but who knows? That's the story. They all lived together, and Allison is Sherry's daughter. So they all had this close relationship with one another and their kids. Then they had a falling out. Then they started fighting over new dudes that they were bringing in, like Jose Roman. They were fighting over Jose. Who else were they fighting over? It had to not have been the first time. So what sort of things are you engaged in? It sounds like the same things that Don and Candus are. And that's how old Andrew Hiltz came into the picture. So why maybe he was, it's easy for Andrew to say and distance himself away a little bit because he already has another woman and he has a son down here. So maybe he wasn't directly knowledgeable of what they all did, what the parents did in that sense. Like, especially that Hunter isn't going to recognize it himself. So I can understand how Andrew might not know in that sense. Like, it sounded like Andrew really, really had a lot of disdain towards Allison's mom. We had to tell him about it. Like, stop trashing Allison online in that sense. Like, he couldn't mention her name without, several insults included along with it. 1 second, please. Yes, my apologies. It's breakfast time around here. Late breakfast. Oh, I totally forgot too. I had forgotten until I read the transcript. About Jose's story that he witnessed. And this has to be, I have to say that this has to be true. Why would you just make this up? Quillfish, I appreciate you, darling. 23 months a customer. Thank you for your dedication. Jose talks about Dawn grabbing Summer's kitten and throwing it to the dogs to be devoured and ripped apart in front of her and everybody. Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't remember what the argument or what Don was frustrated about. I just remember that stuck out in my mind. So the blue couch was a couch that Jose had mentioned that was parked in front of the basement door. It only has one door. And he said that it was there for some time and it was meant to be there to keep the kids from wandering. So it paints the basement as being very cell-like in that sense. Not that it was necessarily made to be a cell, it's just how it's set up now. It's still a cell. Look, Slim, that is such a traumatic story even to picture in your minds. I'm sorry for putting that on you guys. But that's what Jose was telling us. Oh my God. That would indicate a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde-like personality on him, I'd say. That doesn't seem like a caring father. Well, he unalived the kitty by feeding it to the dogs. And the cats out there that were suffering from snake bites. Oh God, Jesus. And these dogs keep banging each other and having puppies again and again. What's going on, Momo? Morris, how ironic it wasn't there the day Summer got gone. What are you saying wasn't there? What's it, Morris? Yeah, we call it a dungeon, Sandra. It's just that's what it seemed like. It was Don and Candus's room. It was Jose's room. It was where Summer stayed. But is it any worse than what they ended up doing to the house? It's how the house... It's not like it was like that and they're making do. They started a construction project that they never really finished. Like it was supposed to be... Oh, how ironic that couch... Yeah. Now I see what you're saying, Morris. Yeah, right, that it wasn't there. Mind you, it was leaned up against. There was something. There was the mattress, the canoe, but no sign of that couch. Right. I know what you're saying. I apologize. It makes me less confident. It makes me less confident when you can match up and see the dynamics, whether there is a falling out or not, that she still allowed the kids to go and be involved up there at 110 Ben Hill Road. Like, I'm not holding it all over Allison. I hold her over the culture within the household. Like, I couldn't see ever doing that. You had a falling out with their parents, and you had a falling out with them, not just over some dude that you wanted to bang, your new boyfriend, and Candus stole him away from you, which you allege that's what it's about. What is it really avoiding? What is she really avoiding with that? I still think it's a bit of avoidance. The whole house is filthy, but Candus was doing laundry. She's always doing laundry. Well, if you've ever... Well, 3 kids, you've got 4 kids, 2 adults there. There's always laundry to do. And granted, the house isn't all that big. It's not very big at all. It's not exposed wiring, by the way. I guess you could consider it exposed. It's not exposed wiring. There's insulation on it. It's Romex. He's got free Romex, which is non-metallic insulated cable running through the place. Just a couple circuits, but it's fed in a temporary service type of manner in that sense. With all of the walls, they've just patched it going as the crow flies. Whereas, like, they call it Romex, which is like a 14-2 or 14 gauge or 3 conductor 14 gauge or something like that. But it's usually hidden within the joists of the walls or the studs. They just have it freewheeling out with a light bulb on it and just picking up the power from here to there. So it's not a real electrical service there anymore, and it's got taken down. It used to be a nice little house when his mom had it with a veranda, but it was all destroyed. You can see it on Google Earth too. It was all destroyed and then never really finished, it looks like. Barbara Murray, you thank you for bringing that up. The parallels between Stephen Stearns and Don Wells are creepy. Yeah. Now that you bring it up, I think you're right. It's the same sort of thing, same sort of scenario. That's what it looks like. It's not just the fact that Don was or Summer chose to go and sleep in Don and Candus's bed. It's how Don talks about it. It's how he introduced it. If he had real rationale and reasoning over anything that he said, rather than avoiding and diverting straight to some sort of nonsensical religious rhetoric that makes no sense, it would be different. He's avoiding and hiding, really. You think so spooky that he sees his kids as property? Well, you know what? I think a lot of people think that or see them as property because it's your responsibility to take care of them. And you're the boss when it comes to your children. It's how he treats the children in that sense. I don't think that he has, I don't think that a lot of time goes into healthy playtime with the kids. It's always they're around different things that they shouldn't be around more than not. I think Don hasn't been around for a great deal of time. Who knows what he does when he's away from the camera in that sense. I don't know what to say about how Don is. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. He used Candus as a baby factory. Yeah, there's just probably, I know what you're saying. There's just probably a better way to say it. I can't think of it. Like he just thinks it's his job to go around and procreate and knock women up and repopulate the earth. And that's all there is to it. Everything else is just a rule to be broken. AK. There's all kids eating out of one cereal bowl. Well, that's efficiency. Maybe they didn't want to do dishes. At least they were eating. Pictures can be deceiving sometimes. I'm not saying that your point isn't valid. Maybe it is. I just haven't seen it. C Legal, you don't understand why DCS dropped those charges against the Wells? Because from the perspective of cost, it'll be a combination of things. From the child welfare services, they've done all that they needed to do to protect the children, and they've removed them from the property. Therefore, they're not going to pursue any more charges at this point in time. That can change. But they would have to go through a great deal of time and cost. And it's not uncommon. It's just they're not the authority to be bringing forth charges against anybody in that sense. It could also be could also be for different reasons in that sense. I don't know what you're talking about, Slim. I never seen that picture. Maybe they had a drag night. Yeah, Barb, you play parallel on Don and Steven side by side. I think you're not wrong. And also, didn't Don and CW give up their parental rights? Michelle, yeah, they did. They would say one thing and do another in that sense. You know, they claim that they were fighting to have their kids back, but didn't go about taking the proper steps put forward by Child Protective Services in order to allow that to happen. It was conditional, and they weren't all about that. They just want... that was very disappointing, you know. That was telling and disappointing in that sense. That their priority in all of this was self-preservation over reuniting their family. Because if it was genuinely an individual being victimized, there shouldn't have been any problem reuniting the family. But the fact that they didn't want to be cooperative and were deceptive in every step of the way isn't going to reunite the family in any way. And that's what makes me really sad. Their poor son is still out there. Now he's turned 18. He's all screwed up, traumatized, trying to make the best of things. And he's got nobody that he can relate to in his life. That makes me sad. He's not around his other brothers. That's got to be so difficult. You know, at least they had each other. Like, at least the brothers had each other in that sense, being taken out of the home. But then they break up to be adopted in other homes. That's got to be heartbreaking to see your brother and be sitting there thinking, oh, they wanted this child, but nobody wants me. Nobody wanted me. Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with this situation? You know, there's questions going around in these poor kids' minds that should never, ever have to be there in the first place. That's going to change the direction of their lives. That's heartbreaking. Oh, Michelle, he doesn't go to church now. He's always been going to church. That's part of their thing. They've been asked to leave certain churches. They go and they soak down and they rip off all of the generous individuals at the church because they play like they're hard up with all of these kids and in need of charity. And to the point where they've been asked to leave more than one church. And now they're on to another church. Where Candus, when she goes, remember that picture of her sleeping in the front row? That was the craziest thing ever. At least pretend to be. It's got to be. It's so crazy. And Don has no point. Like, he's just there to get better and better using this religious rhetoric. None of his religious rhetoric ever makes any sense, which adds a level of comedy to it. It adds a certain level of comedy, which is clever on his part. It's not like it's new, but when you're presented with something that's just so ridiculous, it kind of makes you feel a certain way. That could change, especially if you were one-on-one interviewing him. None of that shit is going to fly in an investigative room. See, I don't think that at this point in time, even Don Wells has been scrutinized in that sense. They haven't gotten past just the interview phase with him or anybody else. It's just been this constant accumulation of statements and information and the compilation of all of this. At some point in time, there'll be an interrogation. But when the investigators are presented, you don't interrogate the very first thing unless you've got something over them. But it takes so long, and that's what we all are so impatient over, and that we see is because we see all these red flags. Well, so do they, but you can't act on it necessarily. There'll be a day where that comes. We talk all about this latest tip. And no matter what Ernie Shell is filling our minds with in that sense over there, anybody else's minds, the fact that there was enough evidence there to warrant or to get a warrant and to go ahead with what they refer to in the public as a raid, not just a word that I'm making up. They raided this place. Would tell you that they were pretty confident on finding something. Could be misinterpreting it. I'm open to it. But, I mean, I wish we knew. Why did they separate the three boys? I don't know. I don't know. It's just how they do sometimes. They don't provide any reasoning for it. They were all in the same foster care. I think from what I hear, one of them wasn't, transitioning very well in that sense and had to be separated from the brothers. And then the two brothers got adopted out of foster care in that sense. So I'm not sure what was going on within that whole arena. Especially with Ronnie Lawson basically saying that they don't have the funds to search for Summer. Suddenly they do. Well, it's not all on Ronnie Hawkins. The TBI and the FBI are involved as well. So, I mean, old Ronnie Lawson might just be a talking head in that sense. They always have money if there's a something to move on in that sense. Money's never an issue. It's all government money, baby. Yeah, the two are still together, sweet tea. Hey, Silver. There's being a negative influence on the younger boys, Brenda. Maybe. That's still just a generality. We probably shouldn't know in that sense, so we don't hold anything against them too much. Really isn't our business, but it's just sad. It's sad that Don and Candus wouldn't go and do whatever it took to reunite their family. Part of that would have had to have been, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. It would have been, they would have made it impossible to really make that happen without opening themselves up and exposing what happened. Is he slim? Ronnie's always asking, isn't that his job? Always need more funding. Yeah, no problem, just mark it down. Look how many chances they had to be decent parents and just couldn't or wouldn't. it just didn't seem like they were very interested in that sense. They weren't very interested. And it just grew into a habit and a pattern, a bad habit over time. It didn't seem like Candus was malicious towards any of the children. But they were around a lot of degenerate, abusive type behavior within the house when it came between the relationship between Don and Candus and whatever the hell else is going on there, because Candus started doing weird things like inviting randos home. God knows what else is going on up there. Grandis, allegedly in that trailer, is quite a mover and shaker. She's fairly popular with all kinds of people allegedly coming up there to visit her and make love in that nasty trailer. Well, CCM. Yeah, that's a point. You're saying in my comment section that she was jealous of Summer, in my opinion. So when you say that, she might not even understand what that means, like Candus. So you could also say that the inappropriate relations and the attention that Dawn was all of a sudden taking an interest, or had been taking an interest in a very special way towards Summer, was something that Candus is the type of attention that Candus should be expecting from a husband rather than a father onto a daughter. All right. And she was getting feelings, or feeling some sort of way, i.e. jealousy, in that sense. Is that, can we agree on that? Are we talking about the same thing? So yeah, I think we're there, because when we say that Candus was jealous of Summer, it almost paints the picture, it can paint the picture that Candus brought harm towards Summer because she was jealous of her, and it seems unsophisticated. But in reality, you're right. She just wouldn't recognize it, I believe, as being jealous. Do you know? Like, she doesn't seem to be an individual that would be or is too in tune with her own emotions. And that's what's gotten her in trouble with Hunter here. In no way am I telling anybody today that I believe Hunter and Candus were having sexual relations directly. Like, when it comes to penetration and doing the nasty, knocking the boots, none of that. I'm not saying that at all. Even if it did I'm not trying to put that across to anybody. I'm saying that the relationship that developed between Hunter and Candus became and stepped across the line a long time ago from being something more than just friendly with your friend or ex-friend's son. There was a bonding that happened there that was highly inappropriate, and it had to center, like all of the other. Well, let's just focus on this one with Candus. She was looking to have some attention that made her feel good with somebody that she bonded with. Her and Dawn don't bond in the same way, and they have problems. And Don's jealous. Therefore, he restricts that attention that would otherwise go uninhibited towards his wife, Candus, and it should. Dawn restricts it from Candus and gives it towards Summer. Puts it on to Summer. Michelle, you think it's more a sick codependency Dawn and CW had, and Candus knew of Dawn's, his predatory nature, his predations. And so she felt justified in making, where's the rest of it, a similar sick relationship with a young boy because, so you're saying, well, you might be right. I'm just purposefully bringing it back a notch so I'm not so abrupt. I don't disagree with you, Michelle. I don't disagree with you. I'm just easing it down a little bit for the sake of not offending the hell out of people. Like, because you can argue it both ways. You can argue it either way that you want. At the end of it, she should have known better, so you're not wrong. But I think what led her there was just, I don't know because I don't have all the information, do I? I don't know yet. I don't know, but we're both right. A similar sick relationship with a young boy because Dawn's predations. CW, I'm really impressed that you spelt that correctly. Not that I didn't think you couldn't. Because I would have chosen to spell it differently and made a fool out of myself for a mistake. Hunter isn't the first underage boy Candus. Oh, what? What did you take that comment away? You took it away right in the middle of me reading it. That's really a mindfuck. That's fine. Yeah, the last thing that he wants to do is, Hunter, is get people in trouble. And his mom in this interview with Chris, Allison, is there to protect him from getting in any more trouble, and she's gatekeeping to a certain degree. Do you want to take a look to see if we can pick some out? Why was there a phone call in the morning with Candus and Hunter? Why did Candus call Hunter? Are you asking because you don't know? Or are you asking are you posing a theoretical question or philosophical? Why was there a phone call in the morning with Candus and Hunter? You mean on June 15th? Well, because it sounded like they're in communication all the time because they both monitor Facebook, right? So because they're always on Facebook all of the time in that sense, it looks like they've developed a back and forth kind of coded relationship, especially when you first came to find a lot of her TikToks and posts. Let's not forget, remember Don Wells lost his Facebook account for trying to intimidate Hunter. He was making reference to Jezebel and all of these. Do you remember all of his early posts? I'm going to have to go back to my early content. These are the things that we were looking at. Now that account doesn't exist anymore, excuse me, because he got banned. But really what he was doing was intimidating Hunter, and we couldn't, at the time, I couldn't figure out why. Now I'm starting to understand. So there was an ongoing dispute within the household over specifically Hunter's relationship and Candus. And like Dawn was at his wit's end with Candus' behavior, especially when he's not around. And he's got every reason to be suspicious because she's doing that when he's not around. And she's hiding it from Dawn, which is gonna piss Dawn off to no end. Do you know what I mean? The fact that you're lying to Dawn about it and continuing to do these things. If you want to do them, just do them. Be open about it. Say, yeah, own it, and fix your relationship on an honest level rather than lie and hope that it just goes away. It's going to make things worse. She's not that mentally challenged, Beep. No, it's we know her at this point in time, Meep. It's not like we're just getting to know her. Oh, we just found out Candus is mentally challenged. Yeah, well, she's not all that sophisticated intellectually, but it's by way of the fact that she's just uneducated, doesn't care, and has been abusing substances over a long period of time. She's not mentally handicapped. What the fuck? Maybe she has the intelligence of a 15-year-old. Yeah, but you can say that without her being mentally challenged. Look, there's some smart 15-year-olds out there. So what? Age doesn't naturally mean that you're smart or not smart, or wise or not wise. I think I know what you're trying to say, but no. If she's not disabled in that sense. She might be, like, we can rephrase that. She might be, you know, how trauma encapsulates people to a certain age. Like, maybe, yeah, you could associate it that way in that sense, Meep. They're encapsulated to that particular age because of the trauma that happened to them in their lives, perhaps. Like, there's a lot of fucking trauma it's a continuous train of trauma with these individuals. It's continuous abuse. Yeah, she's smart enough, Michelle. She's smart enough to try to rip people off. She seems to be pretty sociable when she's inviting randos home from the gas station. Oh, she's socially awkward. Hey, you want to come home with me? We'll get drunk. Depends what your interpretation, Brenda, of street smart is. People just want people are constantly looking for a label to put on something so that they, for whatever reason, think that they understand it that much more. It's not that important. What are you talking about, Meep? What was her job at Carnival? Oh, you mean at the Carnival? Being a carny? I don't know. Dawn, I don't think she's ever admitted or talked about it. It was just mentioned in reference that, well, she was working with the Carnival while she was in Arkansas or something like that. But I can't remember unless somebody else has heard it since. People asked Dawn about it, and Dawn said he had no idea what they were talking about. So I'm not sure if she was actually a carny, like she toured with the Carnival or not. She was the fat bearded lady, I think. What, you want that kind of carnival? Or you want the Tilt-A-Whirl, the Gravitron? Yeah, Brenda, after Rose vanished, Candus left and joined the Carnival. That's what I'm talking about. I know, I've heard it too. But there's not a whole lot of discussion on it. It wasn't back then, and she never elaborated. And Don, I don't think he fucking even knew. He had no idea. That's where my mind left it off. But I know what you're referring to. I know what you're referring to. I just don't know the details on it. I wish I did. She's a sideshow freak, Silver. She could fake it. Maybe she was the mermaid. He's sitting in a tub of water with the fishtail. Bloop, 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 bloop. But old school carnies, remember they used to travel, I guess some still do. But there would be, some semi-trailers that were divided up into maybe bedrooms there, and that's who she was living with. She was traveling around living with the Carnival for a while. Is that what you're saying? Oh, so that's how she met the guy she was with before Dawn. Spooky. You're talking about Andrew. He was part of the carnival. Well, maybe Dawn was purposefully avoiding that part of her. You know, maybe he was purposefully avoiding the topic. I don't know, but that would make sense. You know, Andrew was one of the senior carnies that gave her a job, showed her the way, then knocked her up. Yeah, you're just making it creepier. It is creepy. Not all carnies are bad, dude. There's some good carnies out there. She knows how to get what she wants from the environment around her. She probably learned a lot from the carnies. Probably. Learned how to hustle a little bit. How to approach people. Work in the games. She's working some of those scam games. Yeah, you're probably right. It's a good observation. Good point, Queez. Yeah, I apologize. I just don't know the ins and outs of it because I don't think it was really elaborated on. Brenda says, no, Don was wandering around vacant houses where he met his first wife, homeless and 20 years older than Don. What is this fucking 20 years older thing? Like, so, yeah, that's Pam's her name, isn't it, Brenda? Isn't Pam Don's former wife's name, and she's a lot older than Don? She's like in her 80s now. She's got had a wife 20 years older. Now he went to one 20 years younger. Somebody 40 years younger than his wife with his other two kids. Congratulations. Don told the kids to call her grandma. You get the fuck out of here, Brenda. Oh, that's some funny shit. You come in with some solid stuff this morning. Holy mackerel. What? Oh my God. Oh my God. My God. I just met my wife walking around vacant houses. We just hooked up. We were both homeless. Oh, it's interesting. I mean, you really accept somebody at their lowest, don't you? Well, the only way is up from here, honey. It's the only way is up. Did he go on to have kids with Pam? He did, didn't he? Because Pam's mom, there's Don Jr., Don Wesley Wells, and a daughter? Yeah, a daughter as well. Barbara, what are you talking about? Prayer Garden catfished How does Prayer Garden catfish anybody? She's in love with Don. She loved him at one point, but it grew into disdain, I think. Yeah, Pam, is that the scenario? Now it's making more sense. See, I thought there was another one in there as well. Yeah, she's the one who said that she had to go retrieve their kids because he tried selling them. And a lot of people laugh at that. It's not like he's down there selling them in exchange for dope. He could be out there. Well, that would be more probable to be going out and pimping out your kids in exchange for cash, sexual favors for cash that dad can then turn into drug money, rather than just exchanging the child for substances, which is a silly deal. And I think that's what the allegations are in that sense. It would have to be. Well, that was exactly what Don was doing. Spooky? Do you mean doing or trying to do? And I think the story goes, didn't the dealer actually call his wife and tell him to come pick Don up? Isn't that how it went? Yeah, allegedly, we should say. Yeah, walking around looking for bloomers to sniff. He found his homeless wife. Fuck, he's got better do that again. What else can he find? Maybe he'll find a car. I think that's the conversation. It doesn't make any sense to try to sell a child. Hey, who wants to buy a kid? I need some drug money around here, rug money. You would exploit your child, or the trick is to exploit them so you could keep having that flow of money come in through sexual services. Now, why is Don putting himself around people that would want a child for purposes like that in the first place? Maybe he was there at the dealer's house doing a little bit of marketing, some advertising. It seems so bizarre, but it ups the risk factor for sure. Why else would Don, hey Julia, why else would Don say he'd been at hotels where bad things were happening to children? Oh God, there's a philosophical question. Why the hell does Don say half the things he does in the first place? He puts his foot in his mouth all the time, doesn't he? Yeah. Well, I think it goes along in the lines to answer that a little bit. I think that's his way of trying to come across as owning his past to a degree in certain things from his past, and only acknowledging them in a certain way to fool you into thinking that that's all the information, and he's doing himself a service by self-ownership in that sense. Without directly, speaking to it. You wouldn't expect him to want to speak to something like that, would you, at that point in time? Don't expect Don to be completely forthcoming about his past in that sense. Especially upon further scrutiny, like years after the fact where we're talking about it now. Was it in California, he said? He said a lot of things. Some of the things I don't know what he's referring to, like his trips down to Mexico and the Mexican border and all of the, talk about him trying to buy keys of blow to come up here. And too bad that didn't work out for him, because he could have made some money. But I mean, it all ties back into inappropriate trafficking. We'll just drop the inappropriate, the trafficking narrative in that sense. He's putting and placing himself and talking about it as they're one and the same, which is concerning. One moment, please. Remember when JR found Don and Candus at a motel? Yeah, I've got a picture of it back here, AK. Who was it that... Why were they staying at that hotel again? They got out of... I can't remember the reason why they moved into that motel. Was it that she was just hanging around Don during a job? In that sense, they're trying to rekindle their relationship? Wasn't it Molly? Or was it JLR? I can't remember. But I do have a screenshot of her opening the door, yeah. I can't remember why, though. Dude, what are you saying, Tina? There, Katrina? Let me see. Tina Collier. I was watching some of Dolly's live about a week ago, and he played a call where Summer's mom was digging. It sounded like gravel, and she was puking everywhere whilst doing it. Is this true or not? Listen, you got to be careful about some of these calls, because they have a propensity to play pranks and get up to some trickery in that sense. I'm not sure. I do loosely remember a call where but I thought it had everything to do with Ernie, where she was inebriated and she was throwing up in that sense. But I'm not sure if it was real or if they were just playing. Why do you ask? Oh, you're just following up because it came from Dolly's stream in that sense? Dolly would probably be able to tell you. Oh, Michelle Harper. Good point. You wonder if they stayed together so as not to have to testify against each other in this case. How would you lose everything being that dysfunctional and still stay together? How? Well, the same reason that got him up to that point. Candus needs a place to stay, and she's not about to move into any trailer or move out of Don's house. I think it was a problem. Like, she's got friends or confidants in her real life that had taken her in to get her away from Don. They were trying to get her out of that relationship because they recognized how dysfunctional it was in that sense. I'm not sure. She just keeps going back to Don for whatever reason. Coercive control, perhaps. Maybe he's holding something. I think it has a lot to do with what happened with Summer. Personally, I think there's an element of that to it. Like, what the hell would Don want to stick around for? I don't know. Like, why do you guys want this relationship so badly? What is it that you find comfortable about it? It seems to me that it's a real annoyance. Pain in the butt. Yeah, an out-of-town job. Nini. That's why they had that. Yeah. I think it had something to do with that. They didn't want to have to split all their assets? Yeah, I guess there's probably that. Everybody will have some. Well, Don probably doesn't want it because he would have to get rid of 110 Ben Hill Road then. Possibly. Because, you know, maybe that's a factor in everything. All of a sudden, oh, I don't want to divide my assets, therefore I'll have to be nice to the old lady for a while. And I think that there's, like, Dawn brings Candus to the job sites and gives her, probably gives her an hourly wage when she comes and does some work with them. You know, subcontracted under the subcontractor. So there's a relationship there in that sense. Like, there's a reason for her to stick around. Are they still together? I think so. It is rare, isn't it, Michelle? But nothing's really ever changed. It's always been dysfunctional, and they don't recognize it as dysfunctional in that sense because they're comfortable or they're content. They just turn each day and drown away their sorrows in that bottle sometimes, I guess. I think so, Meep. I think they were legally married.
I'm not saying she didn't do meth. Don't misunderstand me, right? I mean, I don't know.
She never did it for me. She always smoked weed.
Okay. Yeah, who doesn't smoke weed today, though, right?
Me.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, oh, yeah. So we got 4 at the table here. Okay.
And, okay, booty. She drinks every night.
At least Leslie said she's on.
She drinks a nice sized bottle of R&R.
Okay.
Every night.
Okay.
I mean, a nice sized jar.
How about a lot of times in this area, I know there's a big meth problem. What other kind of drugs are on the streets up here? How are pills doing up here?
Yeah.
And what kind of pills?
Oh, no, I don't really hear about the pills. I hear about the meth.
Leslie?
Well, you hear pain pills,
Opioids? Like oxy?
that pain patch. They said on the news the other day that it's running rapid here.
Fentanyl.
Yeah, the fentanyl patches.
Yeah, well, here in West Virginia, right? I mean, West Virginia, there's a town in West Virginia, I think it's Morganstown, and they had like 22 people OD on fentanyl in a single day. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. So,
Leslie's her
at some
name.
point, 3 or 4 months into it, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, your relationship kind of dissolved, but it maintained.
Longer than
It
that.
was longer than that.
It was the start of the second year.
Yeah. It was about the end of August, early September.
Okay.
And then I really cut ties at the end of September, early October.
In that time, how was she treating the children?
She'd smack them and beat them.
Describe that.
Well, let's see. One time her son wanted a drink. She said no. He threw a fit on the floor, so she went over and wailed his ass.
Is that normal? Would you describe that as a mom, from your mom's position? Would that be out of the norm, or even that raised your eyebrows?
I raised my eyebrows. Like, I don't beat my kids.
Okay. Did you say anything to her?
I said, why'd you hit him for?
Ask her who unplugged the freezer.
Not me.
What hose unplugged? Now we can't have pizza snacks.
Well, plug it back in.
I did.
But in between this, you should ask Leslie. Because Leslie was there before all this.
So you've known Candus longer?
No.
Oh,
No, I met Candus on her birthday. See, me and her worked together.
okay.
So I came over for her birthday party. And they had a swimming pool up out back. As a little swimming pool. And her kids and Candus's kids was playing in the pool. And some of the kids had got out and was eating a snack while we was cooking hamburgers and stuff. And 2 of her boys was in the pool and they was horse playing. And this really, what she done really got to me.
Okay.
I mean, they're kids, they're going to play in the pool.
Right.
They're going to get rough. You know, they're boys.
Right.
And because they got rough, horse playing in the pool, she made them get out. And back here behind the house, there's a driveway. And she made the 2 boys get out of the pool, wet, and lay down, stomach down, on blacktop. It was hot. Really hot.
That left an impression with you.
It left an impression so bad. I looked at her and Allison's mom, Sherry. I said, I do not like this bitch. Straight up. Mm-hmm. And I told her.
So it was an interesting story from Leslie in that sense. If that's true, we got no reason to doubt her at this point. I mean, it says a lot about Candus. I mean, that's fairly sadistic. Anybody else? Well, it's getting there. Where does that come from? Why would you punish somebody? 3 kids. Why would you punish 3 kids with cruel and unusual punishment in public after having a tantrum at this poor birthday party? I mean, isn't it enough just to tell the kids to STFU? That would be probably excessive with a swear word. Like, what's the issue? Why don't you just go sort out whatever your issue is, Candus, with the kids through communication? That way, maybe they won't do it again, or you can help resolve something. Why on earth would she go to that extreme?
Allison, I said this swimming pool is going down. I said, those kids did not deserve that. I walked out, picked a swimming pool up, and dumped it. Turned around and walked back in the house. I did not want to be around her the rest of the evening. I didn't, because if I would have been, honestly, I would have went to jail.
Right.
And you want to ask me how I felt about that? That is abuse. Those children could have got seriously burnt.
Right. No, I agree. I agree that if that ground is just unbelievably hot.
And with them being wet,
Right. Yeah, it's just like oil and water and grease. It just
And
fries them up. How did she react?
she just laughed.
She doesn't care.
She doesn't care.
She doesn't care.
Her and her mom both just laughed.
Well, that certainly has left an impression on you, Leslie.
Yes, it does. I don't like her. I have nothing for her.
Right.
And I told that one right there when we was at work.
Right.
Every day she was off work, she was at Walmart spending money for them.
Okay.
Every day.
For the children. I know what you mean by for them, for the children. Am I right? I mean, helping the kids move forward.
Those kids, all they would eat is dollar pizzas.
How do they have the cars that they drive? That kind of stuff.
The ones that are on the property, see, I only knew that, at first, when I first met them, I only knew that Candus had a green Suburban. Donnie had a black truck, which Candus had sold when she came back from her trip from Wisconsin. She sold her husband's truck because he took his white truck with him to Utah.
Okay.
And there's other trucks on the property too that were not sold yet. There was a blue one that used to sit as you came out her front door. It used to sit right there in the yard,
Okay.
next to the tree where the swing was.
Okay.
That's been moved over by the mother's trailer.
Since the incident?
Get it right, the mother's camper.
Well, the mother's camper, I call it trailer. But from what I've seen in the pictures, it's been moved over by the camper.
No,
But it didn't have any wheels.
It didn't have no wheels, no insides. It didn't even have an engine.
So let's talk about the
The
day.
house was filthy.
Yes.
Oh, you tell her that. You tell her
The
that.
house was nasty.
I didn't go up there because I didn't like her.
Just
So I always stay here.
What's your impression of Dawn?
Yeah,
He seemed like an outgoing guy at first. You know, he has his
I'm
problems.
positive.
Silver, is this the first time that you've met Allison? You have to remember that her son Hunter comes on YouTube and sees all of you talking about his deceased mother like that. It's not very nice. She's a character. Allison's definitely a character, but she was an otherwise caring individual, I found. I don't know about anybody else. You know, in spite of the environment that she was in, and they seem to care a lot about the kids that they have, right? They seem to. Like, you don't know them in and out, but, you know, Parky boys.
Like we all do,
Yep.
right?
I
He
did not
loved,
know him.
he loved Summer to death.
Yeah.
That was his pride and joy.
Yeah.
That was his pride and joy.
Is he still around? There's a rumor that he's kind of evaporated. Is that true? If you know.
The last time I knew he was around.
Okay. And of course, you know how things are. You know, people don't know unless they're here, right?
But
He's been
put-
acting a little loony on Facebook lately,
Yeah. Oh boy.
and on the his interviews on TV.
Right.
Like, first he started saying stuff about God and how he wanted the people that stole his daughter punished by cruel means, and then he went to saying something about Jezebel, and now everyone has to answer to the prophet. Like, weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he has really hurt this family.
By throwing me and my son under the bus? Oh.
Well, people do different things. Penny, for your thoughts, Leslie. Where are you at?
Honestly, I think Candace done something to her. Because Candace was jealous of that little baby.
So it's interesting how Leslie, but she's coming to the same determination as the rest of us, but she's not identifying the predator within the house. She identified the jealousy, but that jealousy doesn't necessarily mean that she's the one that brought harm to her. Like she was jealous of her because she was her counterpart at a school dance in that sense. It's not like that. She was jealous because of the lack of attention and the attention that her husband at home was putting onto the daughter. Therefore, she had to go and get it elsewhere in that sense. There's jealousy from that. That's what I believe at this point in time. Yeah, we thought a lot about Allison. Many of you are perhaps surprised about her size. She's a bigger lady. But she, all in all, turned out to be a genuine, good-hearted person, I found. She cared for Summer. She cared about the situation. And I thought she cared about representing it in an honest manner, to the best of her recollection. Although she's had a couple inconsistencies, but they're inconsistencies only because we think there are. And it's very difficult to source where that inconsistency is coming from because of the people involved, being Don and Candus.
Why though? Why would
Because that baby was getting Donnie's attention.
Okay. So it's a pull between.
Oh, fuck. So Leslie and I are saying basically the same thing here. Only, and I guess anything's possible, only she's suggesting Candus brought harm towards Summer here. But I think that we're arguing for the exact same reason, or the same point.
Between dad or the child.
See, and a little dark,
Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
and a little dark secret that no one knows. Candace's mom told me this one. When they found out that they were pregnant with Summer, Candace's mom was supposed to adopt Summer.
Because she was a girl.
Because she was a girl.
Oh, interesting.
She wanted boys. But Donnie
Wanted a girl.
Yeah.
And he got his girl. So let's.
Honestly, I don't feel that Donnie has anything to do with it. I may be wrong.
Was he at work that day? Do you know?
We don't know for sure.
Okay. Does anybody know for sure? Who would I talk to that would know that?
Probably the TBI.
See, I don't know if I agree there, T-Walk. She had to say things so in a legal sense. She had to make certain statements. And that's a thumbnail from one of my videos. And you can find that thumbnail now currently on, I think Chris brought it up in one of his early shows. He was an example. But it was the comment section about the report that she filed on Don back in 2020 after the Jose incident. Or after Jose was there, and the Jose and Don incident. About how she was scared for the life and that of her child's. I don't think you're going to get any good. You're not going to interpret that as her level of intellect by any means. And what is intelligence when it comes to this matter? She's intelligent enough to know better. It's not important that it's even talked about. She's no Rhodes Scholar by any means, but it is what it is. I think why people want to bring it up is that they want to use it and label Candus as not knowing any better and being more of a victim than a participant in anything because her stupidity according to other people, were exploited by others. And I just don't see that. She's wise enough. And she's more than social in that sense.
Yeah, I don't want to go to TBI right now. They're doing their own thing, and I don't want to get involved in that piece of it. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I don't want to jeopardize any type of information they may have, or that kind of stuff.
When she would have summer, even here, and if I was here, I would keep my distance because I didn't like the way she done her kids. And everybody's like, call DCS, call DCS. DCS has been called so many times on this woman, it's not even funny. So what the Facebook people don't realize, there has been people try to step in.
No.
She avoids them.
Sure,
Like
sure.
the plague.
Okay, okay.
She would see them pull in her driveway, she would lock the door and not let them in.
So would it be safe to say, do you think, that Leslie here would be one of the people who were reporting to CPS up to before, like, pre-disappearance in summer? Like, not saying that there's only one, it could be several people, but would it be fair to say that Leslie was probably one of those individuals? It sounds like it.
So they're
I mean, what are
And
we
they would make
supposed to do?
appointments with them
right. I get it.
to come back and do their house check and, the pee test, and they would avoid them.
So I have a question for you. That day, walk me through what you remember.
I remember her showing up that morning
And what time was that?
about 10, between 10 and 10:30.
All right.
She asked if Hunter could go fishing with her in summer because her mother was in the emergency room because of her knee.
Okay.
Because I guess a couple weeks back, they took her a trip to Gatlinburg and the boys were kicking the grandmother in the knee.
Oh my.
She
No.
didn't have the boys with them that day.
She didn't have any of the boys.
So it
with
was
her.
just Summer and Candace.
And then
And Grandma.
Yep.
Was Grandma in the truck as well? Or in the vehicle?
Not when they first picked Hunter up, no.
Okay. So she comes
She was
over.
at the hospital.
Okay, so she comes over. What vehicle is she driving?
She was driving her mom's Silverado.
Okay, that's what I remember you saying. That's why I said truck. Okay, so she pulls up, and does she stop where? Right about,
Here.
right out front.
Between the pole and my mailbox
Okay,
to pick Hunter up.
all right.
Came in, she goes, "Can Hunter go fishing with me for a little while?" I said, "Sure."
Did she text you before?
No, she just
She
showed
just
up.
showed up.
Yep.
How did that strike you?
For those of you who are just becoming familiar, this video's date was about a month after the disappearance. So 2021, July 2021, Chris McDonough went down and did a series of interviews. This one's included. But while he was down there, he interviewed Candus, tried to interview Dawn, took the tour of the house, did a bunch of things.
She was always trying to show up and talk to me.
Let's not forget, and after he left, Dawn and Candus lost their minds because from their perspective, they thought Chris McDonough was on their side and going to help clear them and help clear their name of any wrongdoing or potential thereof in this scenario. And what Chris McDonough turned around and did to them was highlight Jeannie and Mary's concerns, their story, highlight Dawn's perverted past, and talked about exactly what we keep mentioning here today, the intrafamilial escalation of abuse within that household.
She was the first, when me and her stopped talking, she was stopping by my mom's, talking to the kids, talking to my mom, unexpectedly, And, I didn't think anything of it at that time. I'm like, okay. Yeah, Hunter can go fishing. He loves Summer to death. That's like his little sister.
They're buds.
Yep. She's like a daughter to me. And, I didn't hear from him for a while. She dropped Hunter off between 2 and 2:30.
I like to keep my opinion open, Broken Goth Doll, but you're curious as to who I think, in my opinion, did it. I've got no doubt within my mind that Dawn is responsible for this. Dawn's responsible for the disappearance and disposal cover-up. No doubt about it. In my mind. But you're asking me.
Right where your truck is.
Okay.
But her front end was facing the telephone pole.
So she's going this direction?
Yes.
Okay.
When she dropped Hunter off, it was her mom, Hunter, and Summer. And Summer was leaning against.
Like, yeah, I don't have any more to add to that at this point in time. That's just a quick answer to you. Everything recently, especially that it's looking like the source and what everybody is like, especially Don in his conversation is avoiding, and we see some leakage, is that they are extremely sensitive to around this timeline and Don's alibis. He used to walk around and thinking he's in the clear with somebody from his work saying that he was where he was supposed to be in Johnsonville at a particular time as opposed to being home. Listen, I don't believe Don's timeline. I believe Don was home a lot earlier than he said and left again. And they identify it here, Michelle, with, the real key takeaway, the real question that's lingering in my mind is this Hunter in this conversation that they had really suggesting that Don was aware of who was at the house when he would have otherwise be busy in Johnsonville. He wouldn't know, just like Hunter says, how would he know if he wasn't home that there was somebody walking around the property? And why would he say looking to touch kids in that sense? Like, what was going on in that conversation? And I don't overanalyze it in the fact, listen, I don't think Hunter knows. Hunter doesn't know because it was a conversation that he overheard. They don't want to talk. They don't want to talk about it at all. They don't want to talk about it or even acknowledge this Andy or Randy that's up there. So coming full circle back to this most recent tip, there is a Randy Hill, okay? And I believe that's Paul's son. Paul Hill's son's name's Randy. So it's just seemingly on the surface something that's aligning with information that was floating around before. That's why it makes this most recent update into Summer Wells so intriguing. Because we see loosely the things that we didn't know how they were tangible to the case or what they meant, like the interest that the police had in the red truck. Not saying that red truck is theirs, but we see the possibility. So there's two possibilities. There's the red truck, and then there's this Andy Randy. This reference that Hunter's referring to in the conversation he overheard while he was while they were on their way home from swimming and in the car after getting groceries. Do I think it's possible Don was so jealous about Candus and Hunter, he took it out on Summer? Yes, I think it's more than possible. I think that's definitely a possibility. So there's several possibilities or combination of things that could have happened, and they all have to do with the escalation in Dawn's. Let me say it like this. Everybody's having inappropriate relationships, whether it's to make the other person jealous or if there's more to them. It's a pattern of inappropriate relationship that's pointing to sexual degeneracy in that sense, perversions, as opposed to it being innocent. It all comes back to sex with these fucking guys. Well, we just said that, Nini. We're just talking about it now. Because it escalated to that point, Nini. The cycle of abuse that was going on within the household escalated to Summer losing her life. In the ways, and you want to, if you need it described to you in your mind, it's in the ways that a child offender normally does it to a child. I'm not going to sit up here and rhyme off all of the different nasty ways just to be morbid. It's disrespectful to Summer at this point in time. It's unnecessary. Nini, go and check out or search up intrafamilial abuse escalation in cycles, and you will see 5 to 8 points in the escalation queue that hit at this in this situation, in this scenario with Summer and her arrangements and living in the household. And that's true too, Barbara. Patricia Burns, I can't believe you're coming in my chat saying that. I'm even going to dignify that with a statement. That's crazy talk. You think, do you know how, first of all, coyotes go after birds, not kids. A coyote. Coyotes are skittish, skinny scavengers. A mom is not going to go and protect a pup and take out a 5-year-old child. That's crazy. Why? That is crazy, Patricia, but I don't hold it against you. What the fuck? That's the craziest thing to me. No. No. All silver, gold. I appreciate your generosity, my friend, with the memberships. The gifting of memberships, my friend.
It's 2 gallons of milk.
Okay.
I said, oh, look at her. You know, I asked her how Summer was, and she was sleeping.
What side of the back seat was she at? Do you remember?
Hunter was on the driver's side, and Summer was right there right there in the middle.
Okay, so it made sense if she's pulling this way that Hunter's going to get out on this side. Okay, it makes sense. Okay. And so she's on the other side or in the middle?
She's in the middle.
Okay.
By the way, anytime there's an animal attack, there's always signs. They're not careful. They don't clean up after themselves. There's always signs of an animal attack. Although, I mean, Patricia, if you were to talk to Candus, I'm sure that she would insist that maybe one of the coyotes or the bears or the copperheads got her, no doubt, but it's unfortunately not what's happened in this situation.
Like against the milk, gallons of milk.
Yep, against the 2 gallons of milk.
Okay.
And Summer's not going to get very far barefoot.
And I said, oh, look at her. I said, isn't she hot? Like, I said, I wish I could wake her up and, you know, give her a hug. No, you can't.
When the windows were
And the windows were up.
What did Hunter say? Because he was sitting next to her.
Hunter said she was alive.
Okay.
That they were watching TikTok videos.
Oh, interesting.
Wait a minute, when they went into the store, they
Yep.
were...
Because Hunter has the timeline of where they went and what they did. And they had stopped at the store before they dropped Hunter off. That's where the 2 gallons of milk came from.
Okay.
And the groceries.
Okay.
And you know, I'm not trying to interrupt your timeline of that day, but I want to suggest they need to go to the Walmart on Fort Henry
Okay.
and have them look back at the cameras because
Oh, it's Westbourne Drive. She can't go to Fort Homer.
she got escorted out for the way she was yelling at those kids. Don't you remember?
Oh, yeah.
That day?
No. Prior to that,
Okay.
she had gotten arrested, well, cited on Walmart on Fort Henry Drive property.
Okay.
Her and my mom went into Walmart, and they had the kids with them. And she wanted them to help her fix a cell phone that she had bought from there. They told her they couldn't do it. Well, I guess she got really mad and upset, and she said,
She went down the toy.
well, first before she went down 12, she said something about blowing this place up.
Yeah.
So they got security.
Tactical error, right?
So they got security. Security called 911.
Sure.
They let her go their own way in the store. They found them in the toy aisle. Brought them up front to the security room. And she was arrested, but she wasn't put in handcuffs or taken down to central office for booking.
Because of COVID.
Because of COVID. She
Got
was released on a ticket.
Got it. OR.
And
Own
she's banned.
reconnaissance.
I guess she's banned from that Walmart.
Okay. So let's go back to the truck share. Summer's on the other side with the milk. Hunter gets out. You ask Hunter, or you talk to Candus about wanting to talk to Summer.
Yep.
What happens?
She said no. I wasn't allowed to wake her up.
Okay. So she's sleeping?
To me, she appeared sleeping.
Okay. Did it look like to you she was sleeping?
At the time, yes.
Okay.
But now that I look back on it, I really don't know.
Okay. Fair enough.
And it just kills me. Because, you know.
So, talking about intrafamilial abuse, also called domestic or family violence, refers to any pattern of abusive behavior used by one family member to control, dominate, or harm another. This includes physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, financial, and spiritual. It most commonly occurs in intimate partner relationships with spouses, dating partners, ex-partners, but also happens between parents and children, siblings, or elders by adult children. Escalation means the ABUSE gets worse over time in frequency, severity, or type, and what starts as an occasional yelling or minor shoving often progresses to life-threatening violence if nothing interrupts the cycle. So, why and how the ABUSE escalates? It rarely starts at its worst. Perpetrators usually follow a predictable pattern of escalation driven by several factors. 1. Tolerance and desensitization. The victim becomes accustomed to lower levels of ABUSE and stops reacting as strongly, either to survive emotionally or because they hope it won't happen again. The perpetrator then has to increase the intensity to regain the same sense of power and control. 2. Reinforcement and reward. Every time the perpetrator gets away with it, as in no police involvement, victim stays, apologizes, or takes blame, the behavior is reinforced. The ABUSER learns they can push further with little consequence. A loss of external brakes is the next step. Isolation from friends, family, financial dependence. In this case, financial dependence is a big contributor with Don and Candus. Children in common, another one. Cultural, religious pressure. Oh, that God. Yeah, religious pressure. And fear of immigration consequences remove the natural checks that once limited the perpetrator's behavior. 4. And this is what we talk about with Hunter, the triggers and stressors within this relationship. Life stresses, job loss, substances, jealousy, pregnancy, victim trying to leave, often escalate the cycle. And this cycle of violence, what is this? Okay, I'll skip over that part.
Now that I look back on it, it's like, was she really alive? Was she sleeping?
What's your gut as a mom? I mean, with Hunter coming in and saying, Mom, we were watching TikTok videos. I mean, for her to hurt her between the TikTok video stop and home here with Hunter in the car, that would have been kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, I believe she was alive here.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, where would you put her being alive?
10
And where would Hunter put her?
out of 10.
Okay.
Because he sat here and he said where exactly what they were doing. She was giggling, watching TikToks and everything. And he said she fell asleep because she was tired. And that was right before they pulled up. So.
And then what happened?
They left here around 2:30.
How long were they here?
About 5-10 minutes.
Did she get out of the truck?
Nope.
Stayed in the truck?
They had to go right away. They wouldn't.
They were parked out there for about 5 minutes because I was talking to them.
I know, but when you started to ask them, they.
Yeah, I said, well, you want to come up on the porch and,
Hang out.
yeah, like.
And thank you for the invitation, by the way, to come up on your porch. It's very kind.
Because I wanted to hear how the fishing trip went and everything. That's when I found out that they went swimming instead of fishing.
Okay. She told you they went swimming.
Yep.
And where'd she tell you they went?
Stable.
At the Warriors Path, at the stables.
Okay. At the stables?
Yep.
Yeah, because so we went down there, and it looks like it goes right to the water. Miss Leslie, you want to say something? Okay. It goes right to the water, and then there's that path that goes around. Do you know what part of that area they went to? Maybe Hunter can help me. And what I would like to ask, I don't want to get him on camera. Okay, are you all good with that? Okay, but what I would like is maybe turn the chair so he's facing that way, so I can sit on the other side of him, because I think he's got a lot of really important information, and it will do two things. And we're going to cut all this, by the way, so don't do two things. Number one, if he talks about it, okay, it's going to help him, number one. Number two, okay, people are throwing him under the bus like left and right, okay? And I'm hoping to alleviate some of that pressure, okay? Now, Miss Candus can be mad at you all day long, and so can Dawn. Right, exactly. But a 15-year-old boy does not need to be, thrown under the bus with social media and all the other things going on. So I think if we kind of eliminate some of that conversation to really what happened, then all the speculation
Skeezy, you're not in here with your sock accounts, are you?
goes away, and Hunter's able to say, okay, I'm good over here. Has he talked? I'm assuming he's talked to TBI, right?
Yes.
Okay.
3 times.
Extensively, right.
Yep.
Do they have any questions about?
Yeah, Christine. Yeah, he did an interview with Jose, and so did Justin. They both did interviews with Jose. We summarized them in the information in our last video, I believe, that we uploaded.
Him.
Nope.
Okay. Do you have any doubt about that? Okay. Okay, so that said, then if it's okay, not now, after we're done talking, I'll sit over Karen, you sit behind right where you're at. We'll put Hunter over here next to Miss Leslie. We'll move her over here. You know, we want everybody here, so there's no secrets, right?
Our oldest child was murdered in my driveway.
Okay.
And he was just like my son.
Where was this?
At my house.
No. Where? What city?
Kingsport.
Okay. Did they catch the guy? Okay. The only reason I asked you, I was going to say maybe we can help.
I mean,
But it sounds like you got him.
Oh yeah, he was got 45 minutes after he killed him because I chased him down.
See, your
And then
heart
my
is
daughter-
pure, Miss Leslie.
And my daughter called me. She said, "Mom, you have to get back here. You have to get back here." And when I pulled back up my driveway,
Bikers.
the Bikers Association Against Sex Trafficked and Abused Children.
See her in the back.
So what you're explaining, even though you're getting a bit more specific, Nini, is you're explaining what we just pointed out as what would otherwise be or could be fit into the framework of the escalation of the intrafamilial ABUSE and that cycle. Yeah, so you're fine with the theories, but you know, why do you think that there's substances involved? That's what's important here. That's what you should be posting up. But you're speaking the same language as so many other people in regards to the cycle that they're recognizing, no matter what your specifics are. Aside from the people talking about some are getting gone by way of, you know, a coyote in that sense, that wouldn't fit into that framework. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. It's just the thought when we're talking about one thing and somebody pops in like what you were saying earlier. Who brought that up? Who was saying that? I can't remember. Let me see. Hungry Coyote got her. It's probably Candus in a sock account. Patricia Burns. Sorry, Patricia.
Sheet, Hunter gets out. He tells you what?
He really didn't say
He
nothing.
didn't really say nothing.
So he went in the house.
Okay. Then what happened?
I asked him how fishing went. He goes, "We went swimming." Oh, okay. You know, I asked him how his day was. He goes, "Fine." He didn't tell me anything about what happened.
Nothing.
Nothing. And then his girlfriend's mom came and picked him up about 3 o'clock. And he went with them for a while. Me and Leslie went to the ball fields. I left my phone in her car, in her van, because my phone was dead.
I'm not trying to pick on Patty.
So we only had hers. We were on the ball
It's just
field
how the
and we were
comment. It's just how the comment caught me.
actually on the opposite side of the ball field. We were watching her grandson practice, because he was playing for the Packers at that time. And her phone rang. It was Hunter. He wanted to speak to me. She gave me the phone. He goes, "Mom, you gotta call Candus."
Where was Hunter at when he called you?
He was at his girlfriend's house.
At his girlfriend's house. That's with Leslie.
No.
No, oh, I thought her name was Leslie too.
His girlfriend's name is,
That's okay. I don't need his girlfriend's name.
She's a minor.
Yeah, I don't need his girlfriend's name. Yeah, good
So he
call.
was with
Thank
them.
you.
and he goes, "Candus just called me. Summer's missing. You need to call her." I said, "Boy, stop pulling my leg. I do not want to talk to her." So, me and Leslie were talking. I said, "I don't believe it." I said, "She's probably just pulled my leg trying to get me to talk to her." So, you know, we continued watching the football practice. After practice, we went.
Let me ask you in my chat, how many of you and how do you feel about the story that Jose told about Don tossing that poor helpless little kitten into a pack of hungry dogs he purposely keeps hungry in front of Summer? So I mean, I don't blame you, Patty, for having these things in your head about animals ripping things to shreds, because it's been brought up, right? In this particular framework. Like right, Texas Lady, you believe it? I believe it. I believe it too, sadly. Now, what would be, think a little bit more deeper into the reasons why Dawn did that, even though it was out of reaction. Your mind wants to shut it down because it's so morbid. But there's a form of control behind that. There's a reason why he did that in front of his daughter. He took Summer's kitty, knowing it was her poor little kitten, and tossed it into a bunch of snarling, angry dogs. To cancel it out, to cancel life. Man, that's so hard. He has a pattern. I have to say I believe it because of what Mary, you remember Mary's stories? Maybe some of you aren't familiar with them. Don's got a history of crap like that from his youth. For example, burning down a barn with all of the animals inside, tying firecrackers to the tails of cats. Let's not forget what Mary Hartman came forward and told us all about Don's perversion towards dogs, and specifically their red pencils. Mary said she caught Don molesting the dog. Do you guys remember that?
To the drive-thru at the cookout.
Now, were you guys together?
Yes.
Okay.
We went through the cookout drive-thru because we had ordered dinner. And we were waiting for our food. I turned my phone on, went on Facebook. There it is, plain as day. A picture of Summer missing that was posted by Hawkins County EMS. I said, Leslie, holy shit, she is missing. So,
think about the Peeping Dawn story. You know, the way that Jody Sue tells it was so entertaining, but let's just stop for a second. Put all of the entertaining factors aside. Think about how bizarre of a move that is and how Jody Sue would have felt. Imagine Jody Sue Brown sitting in there looking outside, and there's her neighbor, Dawn, is staring at her behind the trees at night, stalking her. He's looking to steal Jody Sue's undies for his own gratification. These are the things that he does. He has some perverse gratifications he needs filled. This is a pattern.
I called her mom, told my mom what was going on. She goes, you're joking. I said, no, I'm not. So then I said, okay. The mama bear and me kicked in. I called Candus. She didn't answer. We waited till we got here. I called again. She didn't answer.
Yeah, Jen they had a young daughter too who slept in their bed or anywhere that she wanted, according to Jose. But when Dawn was home, she slept in the same bed as Dawn and Candus.
Tried calling her. She didn't answer. My youngest tried calling her.
Jody Sue's alleged certain
Finally, she answered on my youngest's Snapchat. I said, what's wrong? She goes, Summer's gone. I said, how could she just be gone? I just seen you guys not that long ago. I said, what happened from the time you guys got home, from the time you guys left my house, up until she went missing? She said, we came home, we planted flowers on the side of the house. We went in Mom's camper to wash our hands. Summer wanted a piece of candy. Grandma gave her a piece of candy. She wanted to go play with the boys inside the house. Candus told me she walked Summer over to the house, let her go inside. She went back to the camper, fixed Mom's knee. which didn't even take 10 minutes. Then she went back to the house.
You know, this narrative that we don't believe to be accurate. Think about the distance between the house at 110 Ben Hill Road and the camper where supposedly she was washing her hands and having her favorite peppermint candy. See, this is extenuous information, unnecessary information as far as I'm concerned. But there's only 20 feet between the two. You're on your own property in the middle of nowhere. I have a hard time believing that Candus was so overbearing and protective of a mother that she personally walked her daughter to and from point A and point B at their own property. The kids run around and do what they want every other time. Why in this moment did you specifically walk her over, for the sake of this story, from the trailer to the house and watch her go down in those stairs when it was just she wanted to go in and play with the kids? Well, go ahead. Don't let me stop you type of thing in any other world. It doesn't fit with the way that life is over there. Except this one moment in the last moments of Summer's life. Listen, it wasn't, she said all of that nonsense to narrow it down to 2 minutes, 120 seconds from one, last seeing her, to then realizing that she had mysteriously disappeared into the ether and knowing that she was gone. Not that she went on a huge trek to go find her. She already got in front of the camera and said that she was scared to go walking out there. She wouldn't go walking around in there. There's all kinds of weird animals. But we know that she left. So there's inconsistencies in the way that she's recalled the story early on. And it contradicts herself in this circumstance, which is sometimes okay, but not in this scenario with Summer. So what really happened after they arrived, or after they took the picture in the back of Grandis's truck with the milk jug photo after 3:09 p.m.? So the time frame is between 3 and 4 at this point in time. And people are suggesting that Don on that Tuesday was already home at that point in time, because he's revealed it in his language and then some. And you know how rumors and allegations goes, but there is truth behind it. Though it's very difficult to pin down and identify as a singular thing. We knew that she left 110 Ben Hill Road. Did she take off? I can't remember whose truck. Did she take Don's white truck that day? Hey, Gigi. Right, Lisa. We can't believe a word that she says, so it's wide open because we have to believe and choose to believe something up to a point here. And I choose personally, I don't know about you all, I know that not everybody's the same when it comes to Hunter's story. Yeah, there is some inconsistencies. There's gatekeeping going on. This whole conversation, this interview, we'll call it, that Chris did, as great as it is, was just an attempt to gather as much information as possible. And I think they did a fantastic job. But there's more that we want to know. And the information based off of this interview afterwards, it was so very difficult to get anywhere with Allison or Hunter or Andrew at that point in time had his head in the scenario. And by the way, as much as I've come to love Andrew sometimes in that sense, it bothers me that Andrew doesn't lead the charge with acknowledging the inappropriate nature of the relationship that was going on, being his primary concern about the scenario from his perspective. He has every other excuse in this circumstance, and it's ridiculous. It's disappointing because he didn't represent the situation as it was. He says that he brought it up to the police and they weren't going to do anything, and Allison had to do it. So, like, I've had Andrew actually acknowledge it. He has acknowledged it, but it was never at the moment acknowledged, and that's something that you can't change. So it's neither here nor there anymore. There he is, right there. Oh, you changed your name, Pandrew. You've changed your name at this point in time, so nobody can recognize you.
Asked the boys if they seen their sister. They said no, maybe she's downstairs in the cellar playing. And I said, did you check the cellar? She goes, yeah. I checked it for about 20 minutes. I go, okay, was the door shut and locked? She goes, yes.
By the way, it might bother me, and I might say that, but it doesn't have any relevance to do with why and how or Summer being missing. So I can easily separate myself from it. But there's people out there who love to believe that Andrew has something to do with Summer going missing and holding information that is key for other people that might allow them to get some sort of reward out of this. I find that whole scenario pretty funny. What a bit of a waste of time, because there's so much bullshit.
So that's weird. Like, how does she just come up missing?
And during this conversation, didn't shed a tear. Nothing.
She was walking back and forth in her kitchen playing with her hat on her head.
How do you know that?
Because we were...
It was on video chat.
So you were on video chat during all of this? Okay.
All she was doing was talking and yawning.
And playing with her hat. She's like, well, I gotta go to bed soon because I have to get up in the morning because we all have to go down the station to take a polygraph test.
I don't have a link on this one,
Have the
Andrew.
cops been there yet?
This isn't StreamYard. I don't have a link to give you, although I can give you a link, but last time I tried it didn't work. I haven't had it set up. This is like a DIY setup, Streamlabs desktop.
Yeah, she said her mom was outside talking to him, that she wasn't going to talk to him.
Is that what she said?
Yeah.
That she wasn't going to talk to the police?
Yep.
No.
But her daughter's missing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, then what happened?
And then we didn't hear from her the rest of that night. And then Wednesday...
And what time was this around?
So the best that I can understand it, what's a relevant question, AK47 in my chat is asking, I'm still on the thought about Hunter drinking alcohol, which came from Candus, why nothing was really said about that at all. Well, said or done about it. People bring it up all the time, and we're indirectly talking about it constantly without directly talking about it. But it wasn't followed up on because it was Allison's responsibility as having custody of Hunter at that point in time. She had to lead that, and she had to press that, and Allison never did. Probably because she had other things to worry about, or maybe she didn't see things. Maybe she was protecting. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But I got that information through Andrew, who's in the chat right now, under A13. So you can ask him about it.
Do you remember?
About 11:30, 12 o'clock.
PM? So by this time, Summer potentially...
So, Lisa in my chat, what is it about Allie or her kid, Hunter, that you don't believe? She's just going through time periods. What isn't there to believe? What specifically do you not believe? And why?
Could have been missing between 6 and 7. p.m.
Hunter called my phone.
Yes.
It's all fine to say that you don't believe them, but they say so many things, it doesn't make any sense in relation to what's going on. It's fine to say that you don't believe them. Well, what specifically don't you believe? Be specific.
Ball field at 7:29.
7:29. Hunter calls.
Yep.
Okay, so
Missing
She was
before
missing.
then.
and so Summer's missing obviously before that time of 7:29.
Who called Hunter?
Candace.
Candace
did.
did.
At 6:30?
I don't know what time she called him.
Yeah. Right now that timeline's unknown.
I think it had to be right around after 7 because he would call his mother first. I'm telling you, he would.
Okay. Then what? Then what?
So the yawning allegedly had something to do with Hunter's new ADHD medication, which was probably an amphetamine, which would in turn and could, as a side effect, make people yawn when they're in a heightened state of emotion, like under the gun in an interview. It's plausible. Like, I mean, you can choose to believe whatever you believe or not. I'm just telling you what Allison said about the yawning.
What took place?
So Wednesday,
So you're watching her though at around midnight,
yeah, there's no emotion.
and she's playing with her
Yeah,
hat.
she's doing this with her hat.
Is she under the influence of anything at that point?
She seemed a little drunk to me
The drunk?
and high.
Okay. And when you say high, define that for me.
Weed.
Huh?
Weed.
Okay, like she'd smoke marijuana?
Yep.
Okay. Any other drugs on board, you think?
Not that I know of.
Okay. From a nurse's perspective, Miss Leslie, what do you think that you've seen?
It wouldn't have put it past me if she hadn't have done a couple of pain pills.
Some pain pills?
Yeah, because I mean, her moods would go like this during the whole
Sure.
interview, during the
You just here to spam? You're here to spam, Lisa.
whole time she was talking to her.
Sure.
And I mean, whenever it was just like she was up like this, and then you could watch her just down.
Yeah, highs and lows.
Oh, thank you,
Right.
Ann. Thank you for
Got it.
the support,
Now, where are
darling.
the boys during this chit chat?
Never heard him.
Never heard him.
Didn't hear them.
Never heard nobody.
Where's
but
Don
her.
during all this?
Never heard him.
You didn't hear him either.
Nope.
And you were watching the same video.
I was sitting right here.
Okay, so it was actually going on right here, meaning you were here when she called. Okay, and
Locked and Loaded, please don't attack poor Pandrew in my live chat. You're upset about, what is it you say? That was just funny. You have known, you sick freak, your greed for that money you scammed from Dolly's and wanted from Hunter. This is a Dolly name drop. You here to promote Dolly's channel? You sick freak, your greed for that money you scammed from Dolly. You know what the funniest thing Andrew did? You remember when Allison got sick and the first thing that Andrew had to do was go around all the channels and try to get money donated? There is such a blowback, he had to stop right away. I've never seen one get shot down so fast. I think that was kind of funny in hindsight. You're entitled to your opinions about Andrew. People are upset about Andrew because he has fucked people over and he does lie. But, it's the games people play. You've known, you sick freak, your greed for that money you scammed from Dolly. What money scammed from Dolly? All of that blood money should have went to Dolly instead of Andrew? And wanted from Hunter made you fire that warning shot. Well, it's probably not wrong. Where's this other message? Locked and Loaded 77. FBI is removing dirt from meat processing property after Pandrew and Archon sang that absolutely disgusting song about summer. What are the chances? This got to be a Mama Bear associated account. Yeah, that did happen. Archon. I don't know why people bring that up, and it's only relevant because people love to attack Andrew, because Andrew has been around since early on in the case. Like, Andrew gets himself into trouble sometimes. I don't know why him and Archon went and made those videos they're distasteful videos about a child who's missing. Then you turn around and want to, in your own defense, because you're unaware, you want to virtue signal and say that you believe that Summer is still alive. Because that's what they think people want to hear, which is just, it's really planting false hope, right? In any situation, which make people even more suspicious and want to come after him more. It's just, I watch Andrew all the time. It's a guilty pleasure. Sometimes. This never-ending loop of bullshit with him and Mama Bear, and I don't think that there's anything to it. Again, the furthest that I've gotten from Andrew in this scenario, and I still can't believe it. I'm with everybody that get upset, because seemingly the whole purpose of bringing Jose Roman down there in the first place was this big convoy of people up and relocating. Only they get to the place where they're going and turn around and go right back again. Every part of that trip was suspicious. But the more that I got to know and learn about Andrew's life, the less and less suspicious I am. Maybe that's the humanizing factor, but it makes more sense as to why there was no logic or reason to it in the first place, if you can understand that. Because it's just how they are. It's just their lifestyle. There was no rhyme or reason to it. And you think that we could get a picture of the house that they had lined up to move into? No. So there was all kinds of questions surrounding Andrew, and everybody had absolute 100% reason to be suspicious of him. Just because of the ridiculousness of the scenario. It makes no sense to anybody who's trying to find logic. But I've accepted the fact now that based off of everybody that Andrew's tried to pull in, especially Bones talking about it, because they all did it on his dime, and it cost Bones all kinds of money to do this. And yeah, nobody has ever found this house that they had lined up. And people want to say that they came down to line up to buy the house at 110 Ben Hill Road. All right, so there's the hook, there's the catch. And this is because, and the link to this for people in their mind, is the fact that allegedly Candus had posted, or they had posted on Facebook Marketplace their house in that sense. So people want to associate one thing to the other. And I mean, on its surface, it makes sense, right? You're like, ooh, that's actually interesting. I'll click on that video because it's a legitimate link and it's a legitimate question. So, can we get any farther? Nobody's been able to get any farther. Not that there's actually anything to it. I give Andrew the benefit of the doubt to a degree. Like, they legitimately don't know because they don't know. I do think Andrew got involved in the beginning because he thought that Hunter had all of the information that would solve the case. And the more that I've seen Hunter and all of the opportunities that they've had to have constructive conversation around the topic has been disappointing. It's been disorganized, elusive, and an excuse to get donations because it's been focused on their particular hardships as opposed to the fate of Summer. And there seems to be a constant grab for that attention by way of people who are associated. And for what? For a few donos that come through? I mean, it just seems so silly to put all of your time and energy into that. Because it's not like it's very lucrative for them. It's not lucrative for Andrew to be talking about all of these things. Look, I watch him. He's got to resort to begging people to pay his Wi-Fi bill sometimes. But it's not like he's been lying to people necessarily. In fact, he's been too open. Anyway, it's getting on 3.5 hours. We'll pick it up on our next live stream. We'll come in and bullshit around and talk about this on the go too, friends. It's 1:25 Eastern. We'll come back and maybe talk about... We should talk about Jack and Lily. We're continuing to follow and monitor this. Just refreshing and going back and taking a new look with all of the things that we've learned. Hindsight is valuable in all of this. Thanks to Chris McDonough for doing these interviews. I know for some people, he's a divisive individual. But when you talk about the situation, trying to find the reality or the truth, if you will, in the circumstance about what happened to Summer Wells, Chris was certainly on the right track in the beginning. And these interviews still hold up. They stand up. It's not about whether or not they were lying to him at the time. It was getting to open up and have that exchange. You wouldn't have thought that there was a whole lot of problem to have people come forward and talk. But remember, Candus waited 2 weeks. Don Wells, Candus waited 2 weeks. I guess Don spoke to the reporter before that. But it certainly didn't resemble an emergency situation, did it? I am happy Fred Hill has been cleared. That's a really interesting... You don't see that too much. It's really neat. Congratulations to Fred. Congratulations to Fred Hill of being officially cleared of any suspicion in the Summer Wells case. I think we can say that. Maybe the investigators in there watching Ernie. It's actually a great post by Ziggy. Anyway, I'll see you guys a little later, possibly today, my friends. Keep an eye out for the uploads. Peace.
I am who I is.